what the hell is this going on here? You have to move how the industry wants you to move. Yeah. You have to move how hip-hop wants you to move. They need a project every year, Drake.
Sounds like a Manchester soccer game.
That, like, skinhead energy is what he's on right now.
Skinhead energy?
I mean... And now nobody gives a shit about, like, oh, you snitched on Young Thug, did you or did you not? All this other shit. Kanye has a problem with everybody.
Why is he dissing Kanye on track? What's going on here?
Did Kanye leave out Lil Durk or something?
The one thing that J.Cole said in that entire diss track that I thought wasn't true was...
Did you hand select these albums up here?
Not me personally. I kind of brought in my stack of records, and when Andy was working on putting all this stuff on the wall, Sambo 2, maybe Lethal 2. I think there was a day where I just actually wasn't here, and that they kind of started working on that, but they just started putting the stuff on the wall. I did have like a couple records. I'm like, oh, that would look really cool on the wall. Musego did that thing with the light switch on that Doomsday record, if you see what I'm talking about.
The light switch?
Yeah, how the light switch is coming out through the record, and you flick it and yeah.
Oh.
That's hilarious.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, Moo did that. You could probably,
that's hilarious.
You could probably, most people don't even notice it's like that until you really just stare at it.
It's great the way the size of the wall works perfectly enough to get that in that spot. That's hilarious.
Yeah, and then there was like a few things on there that we wish we could swap out. Like I brought in my Donuts record from Jay Dilla, and I kind of want to swap it out with one of the records up there.
Which one would you take out?
Maybe either the Kenny Rogers right above the Doomsday record, or
doesn't Kenny Rogers have like? Is he the one that like his lifetime sales rival like Michael Jackson? Is that?
I'm actually not sure.
There's a I think a country artist that it's just ridiculous to look at it on paper.
Yeah, I don't really know too much about his discography. Either that record or the Facile record with the flowers on it.
Have you listened to all these?
Most of them. I have a record player right here.
Oh, you do? Oh shit! I didn't even notice that.
Yeah, I bought the record player a couple of years ago. It was in my room, and then I had it connected to a speaker that I would listen to records just like sitting in my room during college, like studying too, or if I was just hanging out, like on my computer, out throwing a record. It was fun for me.
Yeah.
But my speaker, it was like a Sony speaker. It just took a shit one day, and I never bought another one, to be honest with you. So then I was like, all right, well, I never bought another speaker, so I just brought the record player in here. I'm like, oh, it fits my studio, it fits a studio vibe.
Can it still play?
Absolutely.
Oh, so can it plug to anything here?
Yeah, you can technically connect it to like one of the monitors, or both monitors there.
I mean, not right now.
Yeah, I don't think.
But just
have you done it before in here?
Not in here, no. It's just like the space isn't necessarily. Like we don't have, the space isn't the best. Like we don't have enough. We would have to put like an extension on that desk and put the record player there or something like that. Now it just kind of is used as a stand for all sorts of knickknacks, unfortunately. But I mean, it's all right. That's it works, and hopefully it gets some use sometime. Gotta get another speaker.
I have a Ready to Die album, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, Divine. No, you have
no, or is it Life After Death?
Well, you have
I have
the MF Doom project, the Cookin Soul Christmas.
Oh yeah.
I still have that. Yeah. I still have it in my room.
I remember when you.
We do.
Cookin Soul. Yeah.
I want to listen
to that. It's a good project.
Yeah.
All the time.
Like
Fantastic project.
It was a great project.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, you actually put me on to Cookin Soul after you showed me that.
He's so good.
I remember when he had like that tape barely like had like 20-something thousand views, and you had come across it maybe a little bit more or something. And then after he just like popped off crazy.
So I was relatively early. No, I can't claim that.
You were relatively early. I remember it like it was yesterday. This was a long time ago.
I was definitely early to that particular mix that he did.
Yes.
Like when it came out, I think everyone in the comment section knew instantly this mix is timeless. Like this is, we're going to be listening to this every year. That's how I felt when Jeremiah and Chance were doing those Christmas albums.
Yeah.
I wish they did more. I think they will do more.
I don't know.
He's about to release a new project. I think he just released a song.
Chance or Jeremiah?
Chance. He just released a song called I'm gonna hate myself for not set this on my tongue. Might be like Crashing Out or something.
I was gonna say if that last project he did was the last thing he ever released, what a way to go out.
Oh yeah, I heard. My sister showed me an article that apparently he's divorcing his wife.
I love my wife. I'm divorcing my wife. All right, this is the comeback album, baby.
I think he talks about all that in this song.
Is he gonna be toxic like Future now on this
I can't
project?
remember the name of the song. I need to bust out. We need like a screen, and then we need to be able to pull
Is it wrong?
Jamie, pull that.
Is it wrong to say that Chance, you should have just kept doing drugs and making music, bro?
He might go back to it.
But I mean, you know, I'm sure as an artist, you know, you want to tell your story, and you know, I think music in general is mostly love songs. Like mostly, I think I've listened to a wide variety of music, and in almost every genre, it's about love. It's about love, either breaking up, falling in love, or somewhere in between. You know, maybe a few years later, you remember the person that you used to love, or something like that. And I understand that it's an incredibly influential subject matter that every single person both recognizes, empathizes with, and also artistically feels the need to create. But sometimes, you know, with projects like acid rap, you know, sometimes I like it when they just go off and just talk about all these wide variety of different things in a wide variety of different ways. And I think acid rap and that sort of feeling like a trip and that sort of, you know, I don't know if he actually did acid to do the thing.
He definitely did.
But like, you know, so technically speaking, let's say that Cocoa Butter Kisses, you know, that's about like, you know, his mom or something like that. You know, that's still kind of a sort of love song. But I think the creative angle that you come from when you just do some drugs and make some music, I think it beats the most commonplace "I love my wife" trope.
Have you ever heard?
I think you find a different way of saying it without necessarily saying it, or you just whatever happened last time. Let's not do that again. So
how many songs do you know of that are about marriage?
A lot. Well, actually,
that are
most songs don't talk about. From what I've listened to, it doesn't feel like they're talking about marriage. Like usually, you'll find marriage.
It's a byproduct.
Right.
It's not necessarily like the main focal point. I feel like when you're talking about marriage, it's usually in accordance with something else you're talking about.
Yeah.
As the focus point of the song.
Right. Because like people don't. I've noticed that like love songs don't necessarily talk about marriage.
Yeah.
They just talk about love.
It's all about.
All about the emotion of love. They don't talk about marriage.
Yeah.
You know, you'll most likely find maybe a song about marriage.
Unless it's like a dedicated wedding song.
Yeah. It's like you know what I'm talking about? Like it'll most likely be a wedding song, maybe a song from a female. I'm thinking a female R&B artist or an R&B or just a female singer. Mm-hmm. You're probably gonna find her talking about marriage and that sort of fantasy of that. I mean, not to generalize, but
I'm just making. I'm just.
But you'll probably
noticing. Yeah.
You'll probably hear people talk about marriage in terms of like, yeah, you know, like it's probably from the guy's side, from hip hop. You probably hear about marriage only when they're saying like, "Girl, I'd marry you," something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But they're never gonna be.
Yeah,
it's
just
like a declaration
crossed,
of how much they like you at the moment.
Yeah.
I think he actually stumbled
Or want
on like a hip hop faux pas, where it's like, no one ever on Wax talked the way he talked in The Big Day and made like the whole album about that. It felt like it was maybe a little corny.
I mean, it definitely was corny, and I don't even know if marriage is a faux pas to discuss. It's
I'm
just,
saying in hip hop,
don't think
not a lot. Look at the way Kanye talks, even though he's been married multiple times.
I don't think the topic of marriage in tracks like that is the cringy part or, you know, uncomfortable part. I think it's the way it was presented.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think just like listening to it, the way it was presented, the unoriginal or, you know, the flows themselves just weren't there. His vocal inflections just going all over the place, and the beat selection, half of it was garbage. I don't know, man.
It felt like
And then there was Hot Shower.
Yeah.
something about it felt inauthentic. Like he was going on this whole gospel trip, right? Which I think was a good path because we were getting songs like Father Stretch My Hands and getting Coloring Book and different things like that. You know, given now that we know that they got divorced, it felt like the emotions he was expressing about the big day a little forced. Yeah.
You know what it feels like? It feels like you're watching an Instagram of a couple. It's one of those couples on Instagram that constantly have to post and let you know that like they're in love. They're madly in love, right?
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm talking about? And that's what it felt like on Wax.
Yeah, for sure.
And the problem with that is it's on Wax, just like it's on the internet, right? Until they delete their whole thing. You can't delete this project, and we heard you.
Unless you want to pull a J. Cole.
Right.
And take it off streaming services.
But we'll never forget. We know. We remember.
I'm actually excited for this project he has coming out, though.
J. Cole. I think
Well, not J. Cole. Chance.
Chance?
Chance.
I hope it's good.
I might be
I
more
hope it's
excited for Chance's project than I am for J. Cole.
I think J. Cole needs to change the... I think The Fall Off is a perfect title for a project for post what has occurred.
Post what has occurred.
I mean, seriously. Like, you've been saying The Fall Off. I'm like, oh, man, the poetry's right there. You know, the way people are now, like, the
Do you think
fall
it's
off.
projection when art, like, imitates reality like that? Since he said he did the whole might delete later, and then he actually deleted a song from it. How much of it
then his
is
next
like,
project is called The Fall Off, and then he made a move that kind of feels like to people he's falling off.
Having J. Cole as a feature on the Future Metro
That was
second
weird.
project was funny as fuck.
That was weird.
That
That
verse
was-
was that verse was an older verse that was recorded.
Yeah, no doubt.
before-
No
yeah.
doubt.
But they still had decided.
Yeah,
to
why
at
not?
least include that, which
Why
was
not?
just funny timing
Yeah, they did that. They did that shit on purpose.
for sure.
They did that on
That
purpose.
wow fact on that track, Red Leather, that was funny as fuck. And I mean, with the way that J. Cole in this whole situation kind of got brushed off by everybody between Kendrick and then Drake was like, I didn't even fuck with your shit, like get out of here. And J. Cole's just sitting there like, okay.
I actually think in the long run, J. Cole made the better move. It doesn't look good for now, but I think in the long run,
By deleting
'cause,
the
like,
track.
well, not even by deleting it, but by, I think the way he said it, the way he said what he said on his Dreamville concert or festival, the way he said what he said, and then what he was saying about, like, because in my opinion, what I heard, first of all, I didn't hear him apologize for dissing Kendrick. He sounded like he's like, I don't actually believe like the words that I just clearly said to this person on track, saying, first of all, which is the one thing, and I was right, the one thing that J. Cole said in that entire diss track that I thought wasn't true, or it was just nonsense, ludicrous. It's like, you know, your second project, or something like that, your second project was trash, or something like that, or overrated. I'm like, okay, so are you starting off in Section 80 and saying Good Kid, Mad City was trash and we overrated it? Or are you starting off in Good Kid, Mad City and saying To Pimp a Butterfly was trash and we're overrated?
Either way, you're wrong.
Either way, you're dead wrong. And the thing is, as an artist, and I think this is why I liked J. Cole, or I understood what he said when he was saying that, as an artist, he knew in his own soul that ain't true. Yeah. Both To Pimp a Butterfly and The Good Kid, Mad City are ridiculously good projects.
The problem is...
And he doesn't... The thing is, sorry, very specifically, he was saying, I don't actually dislike this nigga and I don't want to play into this. Yeah. But it's not... Here's my theory. Not my theory, but my assessment. Hip-hop is mostly brag. Brag and love songs. It's brag. Braggadocio, braggadocio, braggadocio. Everybody across the board. I'm the greatest. I'm the best. I'm the richest. I'm the most handsome. I can get all the girls and your girl. Yeah. It's all brag, brag, brag. The problem is, J. Cole, when he's bragging, he's playing in the game of hip hop. He's playing in the game of MCs and bars. Talk your shit, like, you know, really speak. You know, like, you know, boast yourself up. The problem is, braggadocio has a real rule in the real world. When you brag and somebody calls you on your brag, you have to defend said brag. Yeah. You have to. Like, that's a rule that's beyond just that play that we have in hip-hop, where people are going at each other, or people are boasting about themselves. There's a level of brag that's just true. So if I brag about something a lot, and then you come up and you say, prove it, I'd look like a real jackass if I couldn't. I was just kidding. Yeah. Oh, then you're, you know, like, it just looks weird. That was underneath, and that I think is what people were just like, nonsense.
A lot of the younger rappers do that. That rule kind of flew out the window past that generation of what we're talking about right now.
Perhaps.
Underneath, they don't give a shit. I mean, even if you just reference, like, the smallest thing about what Lil Tecca said about when he blew up. You know, Lil Tecca died.
Right, well, yes.
Went on that interview,
yes,
he's like,
yes.
yeah, most of the stuff I said just wasn't true.
True. Well,
I think that's going to be a problem later, though.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Right. It's still going to affect you.
It's
still going to affect you.
You're still trying to be a hip-hop artist.
Right, because
as long as you're hip-hop, these rules matter.
Right? I mean, like, if you this is why self-awareness is important. If you approach, let's say, like, Lil Dicky, and you have, like, hey, just because you know, it's almost like a disclaimer. I'm a comedian. Yeah. Or this is comedy. None of this shit is real. Or Eminem is a great example of this. You think Eminem, half the lyrics he said was true? No. But he approaches it in a way that lets you know that everything I'm about to say is utterly ridiculous. But the beauty of Eminem in those early years, it's like there's poetry underneath, like I'm saying, all these. It's just like, it's like he's revealing himself, but he's saying all these preposterous scenarios. Yeah. You know, what line? I'll slit your motherfucking throat worse than Ron Goldman. You think Eminem's gonna slit your throat worse than Ron Goldman? No, he ain't gonna do that. But, like, he's playing up that crazy. Yeah. He's playing up that crazy.
I think he said something about throwing a hamster in a microwave.
Yeah,
but, like,
I think you're allowed to exaggerate.
You're allowed to exaggerate. Yeah.
But if the foundation of where that intention is coming from is untrue, people are gonna call you out on it.
Boom. That's where J. Cole went wrong.
The thing about J. Cole, though, is he brought up those points himself. You know, he stepped in that direction by himself and came out and said, your second album was...
But I also think he's probably thinking to himself, like, you know, he was saying that, you know, couldn't sleep at night and all these different things. Like, he just wanted to get back into his groove. I think when Kendrick dropped his verse, Kendrick threw a whole wrench in that nigga's groove.
Yeah.
He threw a whole wrench in that nigga's groove.
Disturbed his peace.
He disturbed his peace, right? But I think what he was trying to say was like, I don't actually hate you. That line that I was referring to in or dislike you, or even think you're bad. But that line that I was referring to in first person shooter was just saying like, at this moment I feel great. More than I feel like these guys are worse. I just feel great. You know?
I think the audience understood that.
I think the audience understood that.
But for some reason, Kendrick took that a whole different way.
Well, look, I understand J. Cole's move. I don't necessarily think it's the best move. But I also don't think I don't think it's the best move immediately. I don't necessarily think it's going to be the best move in the long run, but I also don't think it's the worst move. I think it's a decent move. I understand it.
I was thinking about this because I was listening to some other opinions about it, and they were bringing up the Jay-Z versus Nas situation and how a lot of people felt and still feel that Nas beat Jay-Z, right? But
back and re-listen to this.
I mean, if you listen to Ether and you listen to Takeover, there was events that transpired afterwards, but there's a general feeling that Ether, right? You know, we actually have a term called Ether that was entered into the Webster Dictionary as you ethered someone based off of that Nas track, right? So, you know, people felt like Nas won that battle, but still people hold Jay-Z to being, you know, in some people, the number one artist, one
for some time,
rapper of all time.
For some time, and maybe still slightly currently, I think Jay-Z might be the best rapper of all time.
Right. So I think there's a pathway here. People think like J. Cole is done.
Me? Yeah. Well, I think in terms of the way I put it, it's like
Sorry,
go ahead.
Sorry, the way I put it, it's almost like a law of averages. I think if you write out every type of list, lyrics, flow, music, career, all the things that have come together to make a rapper, Jay-Z is top 10 in every single list. He may not be number one.
Oh, that's what I was asking.
Yeah, he may not be number one.
Okay.
He may not be number one in every list. He may not be the best lyricist ever, but he's top 10. He's top 5 probably. He may not be the best flow, the best musicality ever, but he's top 5, top 10 probably.
All right.
And I think if a person is on that many lists, that high, that many times, he's got to be arguably one of the
he's
best.
Got everything too.
Arguably.
He even has the Grammys, and that's, you know, something that even Drake doesn't have. But still, people consider Drake, you know, contending for number one on that list, right? Mm-hmm. But I think the point I'm making is that it's okay to have a loss on your record. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't actually take you out of the running, I think, depending on how J. Cole comes around. It's a tough spot.
It's weird because when that moment happened, I was hearing him talk, and as an artist, I understood, like, I knew he didn't believe the things that he said. He didn't even sounded like he believes the things that he said. He sounded like he was just trying to bounce back. He was just trying to respond back to Kendrick because that's what hip hop wants. And I think as an artist, very specifically, when you respond back to people, when you're responding back to another artist, because the audience mostly wants you to do it, and less so that you want to do it, you know, he's trying to be. I think sincerely, he's trying to be one of the best. I mean, he's trying to be the best artist that he can be, which, you know, he also, through his own braggadocious, you know, bars and music, he's also trying to be the best rapper ever. Best rapper live, best rapper ever. And I think on that journey, there are certain things that you just, like, I'm here to do me, and I don't know. It struck me as he didn't really want to do this, and we kind of egged it on, and then he responded, and then he was like, "Why did I do that? I don't want to do this," which is human, but then at the same time, in that, like I said, that undercurrent of braggadocio and hip hop, you've been making the claim, my nigga. You've been saying it every single song for like the past few years, and he even said it in the beginning of the Might Delete This Later project on the song he did with Cameron. You know, swear to God, I'm the best. And he said it. He's been saying it several times again.
Yeah, if that wasn't like the core subject matter,
right?
Of the past few years,
Right.
Yeah.
Like if that wasn't the core, if you, this is why Kendrick is so brilliant. This is why I don't even think Kendrick is so brilliant in the sense that he's a genius. I think he is a genius. I'm saying very specifically, I think there's a rule of artistry that protects you from things like this. When it comes to artistry, and hip-hop is a very unique place of artistry because it has so much braggadocio, because it comes off of black culture, which comes from these very specific places where you can't not be tough.
Yeah.
You can't not, like, puff your chest out, tell everybody to fuck off, in a sense. Artistry in and of itself is vulnerability. Art is vulnerability. You're letting the people know who you are, right? And Kendrick, when we think about Kendrick, no, it's not that Kendrick hasn't been braggadocio and hasn't been bragged in his music before, but when we think about Kendrick, the general perception of him is a very emotive, very personal, very vulnerable artist. Am I correct? Like, that's the general perception.
Yeah.
We don't think of him more as like Kendrick who comes on this track and just says, I'm smoking every rapper out here. He only does that. And whenever he does do that.
He does that with Baby Keem a lot.
But like whenever he does that, like, it's once in a while that we all know about it. Am I wrong? Like
it's not the core subject.
It's not
matter.
the core subject matter of this dude.
Yeah,
and I think he could be a genius and know that art is vulnerability, and that's what I'm gonna do. And then when people try and come at me, it'll be your loss, because I'm not saying I can't come at you braggadociously, nor can't I rap. It's just more so the public's going to be on my side because I gave them music that they're going to live with forever. You understand? You know what I'm saying?
And I think that's why he can wait.
Right. And I think he's tapped into a real rule of art. Like a real rule. You want to brag? You want to brag artistically? You go ahead and you do that.
I'll give him this. Hasn't said anything for the last month. He's the only one that hasn't made a mistake, I think, in this whole situation. Mm-hmm. I think everyone has stuck their neck out a little too far, right, and made a mistake. Mm-hmm. Kendrick still has to say something.
You know, as a matter of fact, you know what it feels like? You know what it feels like? It feels like this battle only moves forward when Kendrick says so. You understand? He's, like, you notice that?
He's controlling the board.
Like, Drake wants to make him drop now.
Yeah.
Drake wants to make him drop now, but Kendrick doesn't have to.
This was a way for Kendrick to test Drake's and J. Cole's ego, and it worked because he got them to bite. He put the bait out there. Drake didn't need to respond. Drake is like one of the number one artists in the entire world. He didn't have to say anything back.
But he also knew that here's where Kendrick is playing 5D chess. Drake has to respond.
He has to respond because look at those circumstances.
If J. Cole has bragged for the past few years and we've noticed it, right? What has Drake been doing for the last 10?
Same shit.
Way worse.
Especially the last album.
The last few albums.
But that
album literally has a go.
He has.
But that's the thing.
He's been coming at everybody. He's been talking his shit for years and years and years.
That's not even why I think he has to respond.
But sure. Yeah. It may not be the only reason.
That's what I was saying. They didn't have to respond, but because of the nature of what they were doing,
like on a base level, you have the free will not to respond.
You have the free will. You don't have to say shit back because you've been bragging for this long. You already know you're the shit. If you were that kind of like iron-willed, strong-willed about your own situation,
Mm-hmm.
you don't have to respond. But because of the nature of how
because of the nature of it's all, you have to respond.
You have to say something.
You have to respond.
Yeah, and I think that was the genius of it as well.
Mm-hmm.
Like the whole setup of the situation with Metro, with Future, with Kendrick getting on the track. For the 3 weeks that Drake wasn't responding, we were all yelling because of these guys. You have to respond, Drake.
Yeah.
Or
you have to.
You have to.
Right.
Yeah.
Especially even more so after what happened to J.Cole. Even more so after what happened, we're just
everyone was begging him to respond at that point.
We need.
I'm surprised Drake put that diss track on Spotify, platforms after it had been leaked.
Right. Well, I don't know how the timing of this all works.
I
Taylor
think the
Swift
reason he
apparently
did
is involved in some sort of weird way because of
Is she?
She dropped an album and they were trying to avoid dropping an album,
the
dropping
Taylor
the songs.
stuff, but
Right.
Yeah,
Taylor
Marianne said she just released a.
crazy big.
Right. So there's industry moves in combination with artistry happening here, and we're just waiting.
But I think he released the song because he wanted to do a couple things. One, people were saying like, "Oh, you won't claim the diss track, you won't no balls." They were essentially saying,
I see.
right? Some people were saying, "Oh, it can still be AI," even though he debuted it
I see.
on Academic's channel.
Uh-huh.
But then I think he also wanted to release it when he released it because he wanted to draw this dichotomy between him and Kendrick. I'm not afraid to drop with Taylor Swift.
I see.
Right? And I think that's why he released that freestyle as well afterwards and used Taylor's name and name dropped her to showcase, like, you're the industry guy. I can do whatever I want. Right, I'm not afraid to drop on Taylor's release date, but you are. But I don't think that's the reason Kendrick doesn't want to drop, right? I think it's more so what we were saying before, where he's kind of waiting them out to see what they can do.
I mean, he doesn't even need to respond. Rick Ross, Future, Metro, A$AP Rocky. I mean, you name it. There's a whole bunch of people.
Has to respond.
Well, yes.
But he doesn't need to respond on their time.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that's the whole thing. I think that's maybe that's the message that Kendrick is trying to say. Maybe this is another angle, another possible analysis that Kendrick is trying to let you know, like you're claiming to run things, but the endless album releases, the endless music releases, it may be that we're running you, the audience, the hip hop culture is running you more than more than what you think you're running, more than you're running it. In other words, I run this shit.
As in, I can move how I want to.
I can move how I want to move.
You have to move how your audience wants you to move.
You have to move how the industry wants you to move.
Yeah.
You have to move how hip hop wants you to move. They need a project every year, Drake. They need a project every other year. But that could also be wrong too. I'm not sure, because I did hear that the reason why he released the projects back to back, and like he's releasing like a project.
I think it's because he has this 5 album.
Yeah, because he had a deal. Because he had a deal. So there's also
the
that
requirements of the deal.
There's also that. So
does that make him more industry, or does that make him?
I don't even I don't even know what the message behind both of their movements are. There's no way to know.
I don't know. Drake saying to Kendrick like that, the play on words, dropping "Give Me 50" with his label. Like Drake is, what is he not doing the same shit? Or he's
signed
to a degree. Like he is in
one guy, and then he signed to another.
Yeah,
and then
like
he
I
signed
don't know.
to a bigger.
The two just random things. One. Rick Ross from this calling Drake white pissed Drake off. I know that for a fact.
The whole white boy thing was crazy.
I was crying laughing.
Yeah.
That pissed him off. And then two,
just look at the way he reacted.
You're just gonna be the white boy?
Yeah.
Why are you saying it like that, man? That's so crazy.
And then like Drake,
That's high key racist, man.
and then Drake, even though it was funny as hell in the moment where Drake was like, "Metro, go make some drums," it was so funny. But at the
That
same
was
time,
hilarious.
that's like telling a firefighter, "Go put out a fire." Like I didn't understand the point. Like you didn't. Who are you offending by saying that? You know what I mean?
It was for the jokes. He was trying to get that off on him so
Yeah.
that the onslaught of comments afterwards, because he did the whole meme thing.
Yeah, I know.
But I don't think for Metro. I think he probably just brushed that off.
That's
he probably
funny.
didn't care.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Did you see that video of like the I think it was like audio of like a mariachi band sound like Metro, go
That
make
was-
some
Yeah, I
drums."
heard that.
That was hilarious.
Oh, that went viral.
That was freaking hilarious.
Oh, that's great. That was
Yeah,
great.
it just turned into a whole meme. It's so funny.
Oh,
That's crazy.
what a time to be alive.
We're never getting one of those again.
Well, you're right. We're not.
Yeah, I think the thing about this beef between all these rappers, Kanye's throwing his hat in the ring. Kanye's like, "You can't forget me. I hate somebody too."
Yeah, Kanye making his own production remix of like that. And
Right.
Everyone knows what he's doing.
I think what's so
too. It's
interesting.
so hilarious.
I think what's so interesting is how the landscape of hip hop is going to change after this.
He followed the formula of that the famous song he just dropped, Carnival with Rich the Kid on Ty Dolla on their project.
Mm-hmm.
For the Like That remix, he just like followed the formula of like the choir, like a bunch
Right.
of people in the background doing
It seems like that's his like sound currently, like
yeah.
like the really
It's
big,
like a big choir, open ensemble of voices.
the hooligans, I think
Yeah,
he calls them.
yeah, the
They're like
hooligans.
they're a fan base.
Sounds
in,
like
Europe.
Sounds like a Manchester soccer game.
Yeah, that like skinhead energy is what he's on right now.
skinhead energy.
I mean,
I've never really before in my life.
come on, it's exactly what's up.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's so yeah.
That's crazy.
him and Cardi actually, they keep using that imagery.
I'm surprised
Yeah.
he hasn't. Okay, so like in these very specific niche places on TikTok, they have not too niche. This is pretty popular. You know, like those South African, like those like they're either in school, those South African children in school,
Yeah.
or like a South African choir, or just something South African musically, and it's just so beautiful. I'm surprised that Kanye or any one of these guys haven't hopped onto that.
I'm surprised they
Like,
haven't
those
moved
are-
on to like Amapiano.
Amapiano.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm
It's
surprised.
the same ethereal
I'm
vibe,
surprised.
you know
Yeah,
what I'm saying?
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like it has all the soul that I expected Kanye to use, but I guess not.
You know what I find it interesting?
Maybe it's not on the
like
radar.
His
I don't
album.
think he wants to be happy.
Sorry.
Sorry, go
What?
ahead.
No,
I don't think he
that's
wants
all
to be happy.
It's all right.
That's crazy.
I'm so sorry.
I find it interesting that Kanye's album Donda, he didn't want any swearing on it, and it was all about the subject matter, God and spiritualism and all this stuff. His mother.
He didn't want any swearing on Donda.
There was no swearing, not a single curse word on Donda.
Really?
Yeah, for the hour and 40-minute project, however the hell long it was, no swear, no curse whatsoever. But then
Projects are too long these days. Sorry, continue.
But then you have Vultures with Ty Dolla $ign, and they're talking about like most toxic shit, like she ride the dick like a carnival.
I mean, yeah, I mean.
What happened to the whole Christian?
Yeah, I know, right?
It's so. Did you hear his recent announcement?
What?
The YZY corn.
Corn?
It's a euphemism.
Corn?
Yeah.
Okay.
He's creating a YZY. He announced YZY porn.
Like a website?
Yes. Like not a website. Like it's like a production. He's doing it like it's a movie studio, I guess.
wants
Right?
to get
And
into
it's
the
coming
film.
out this summer. And I'm just like, this has to be a joke.
Why is he?
Right?
He's fucking.
This
all
is
over
a
the
complete
place.
what, and I think, and that's why it's hard for me to take him
Complete
seriously.
180 from the whole Christian
Yeah,
thing.
this
Yeah,
is
seriously.
like-
you have something heartfelt, like the representation of
I
like
think
his
it just
mother's
likes to be
heartbeat
shocking.
fading away on Donda.
Yeah.
And then now he's talking about all this other shit. And then I was scrolling through YouTube Shorts like the consumer that I am, and I saw a clip of Kanye saying "I am God" in an interview. He's like, he was saying something.
Oh
like that.
yeah,
You
in
know
the
what?
interview with Lil Boy, right?
I think so.
Yeah, it just came out. He refers to himself as God. I think he talked a little bit like that in that Big Boy interview too, and I'm just like, he's lost.
As in, like, just like casually, like, you know, just like referring to himself as God.
Oh, he says a dead face, like deadpan, like I am God.
I think he was being a little.
That's crazy.
To me, it sounds, and I can't read the person's mind, but it sounds like it's coming from a place where he feels hurt, right? By like he feels like he went 150% in the gospel direction, and all these good things were supposed to happen, and then he got canceled. So now he feels scorned by God.
It's real simple, man.
Yeah,
It's not real. It's not difficult.
Yeah.
Just make some music. Disappear for a little bit.
Yeah.
Come back, make some music. Disappear for a little bit. Do some concerts. Mind your business. Make
people
some
want to
music.
hear like you're growing in like a positive direction with your music, you know, like
Or if you're going in a negative direction, you just like, you know, make some music.
make some music.
Negative or positive.
Yeah.
Just
It
express.
generates buzz. Negative or positive,
Express.
either or.
But I just think I just
What I say earlier,
I
vulnerability.
think you have to be consistent though in your, or not consistent, but you can't stand on something and then turn your back on it the next
For
moment.
sure. You lose credibility.
You lose credibility, and it makes me feel like you lied on some of those tracks. I can't go back and listen to that when you're in this mode.
Yeah.
I can't listen to Follow God, and then, you know, the punchline
But,
is,
you know,
"You're
is
God."
it well, Jesus Christ.
That's
The
crazy.
punchline
Follow
is-
me.
Follow me.
He's got to change the time of the
Okay,
song.
but is it inaccurate as a representation of who Kanye is? You
It
know,
is a
because I was
very
referring
Kanye thing.
to
Yeah.
referring to vulnerability,
Bipolar.
and I think that vulnerability is you know, works very closely with honesty and truth. Is it possible that Kanye's projects, as they've come out and the subject matter that they've been involved in and the atmosphere around them has only ever been an expression of who Kanye is, and in short, as inconsistent as can possibly be? Like, is you know what I mean?
Inconsistency, though, can sometimes
But
come
I'm-
off as a lie.
Right. But
Yeah.
I don't even want to give him the title like you're just inconsistent and that's who you are and that's what the artist is representing. It's more so that like that sort of sporadic movement between these different ideas, and then you know, the religiosity that happened in the middle. There was the whole that sort of more electrical sound. The what was it, Yeezus? Remember that? And then all these different phases that you're in. Is this actually just, you know, him as an artist? You know, whether we like it or not, is just who he is. You know what I mean?
It's very likely, but then he does things that make me feel like he's a kid with his hand in the cookie jar. Like this recent thing, like throwing himself in this whole situation with the beef. I'm like, dude, that's not an artistic thing to do. That's because you're trying to drop an album next week.
Is he?
And you need, he's going to drop
dropping
Vultures too.
Oh, right.
And
right.
you need to get yourself back in the cycle. So now you're going to make this about you. And everyone knows you're trying to make it about you too. You know what I mean? That to me seems like selfishness, and not, and maybe that's true to who you are, right? But you know, it's also inconsistent with your whole Christian vibe, right? To do something like that. So it makes me feel like sometimes you're just being opportunistic.
Then you got Chris Brown dissing Quavo at the opportunity.
Right. Honestly, Chris Brown's diss track, I don't know if you wrote it, I don't know whoever wrote that, was probably the best one so far.
Yeah.
It's probably the best one so far.
That's pretty fire.
It was,
fire.
I mean, like,
And I think it's because we didn't expect it.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Can someone enlighten me on the beef?
I don't know either.
Do you know anything about it?
Yeah, that was so surprising.
Yeah, it's like
I don't
Why
want
these
to.
niggas
I don't want to
mad?
spread misinformation, but I think what's going on here is Quavo and Chris Brown have had a problem with each other for a while, and I think it stemmed back to maybe like 2018, 2017. I saw a footage of like Chris Brown like winning like this amateur or like celebrity basketball game, and I guess he was playing against, I don't know what the context was, but he was like, it's F Quavo. Like, yeah, I said what I said. F Quavo. Like, I really said that. Right?
Wow.
And I'm like, okay, I guess you two have a problem with each other.
Off
But
of basketball?
not basketball. I guess, I don't know what happened
I
first,
think it was about a chick.
but, you know, eventually, yeah, it sounds like it became about women.
Yeah, I see.
Because that was a hard bar when he was talking about he, you know, had something to do with Sweetie while he was with Sweetie. I don't give a damn if you were with my girl when I wasn't with her, because I was with your girl when you were with her. That was the bar, essentially. And that, like, was slaughter. And then the other bar that really, I think, sealed the deal for Chris Brown.
Nailed
when he
him
said,
in his coffin.
Yeah.
That was a killer bar.
the one with Takeoff.
Right, right.
Yeah.
And the thing is, though, and I was going to mention this, and we talked about this before.
Yeah.
What's so interesting
He should
that
have been the one to go.
Okay, so going back to that comment that J. Cole made in his song about Kendrick, about either To Put a Butterfly or Kid Mad City being a bad project, one of those two. The audience started to roll with that narrative. Like, people started to say, like, yeah, The Pimp a Butterfly was boring. Yeah, it was so overrated. You know, people were ready to jump into that. I felt the same way. That's so interesting that our minds immediately changed after that. I stood on firm ground and I was like, bullshit. Bullshit, I don't believe that statement one bit.
Yeah.
But that, you know, that comment, the Quavo, the Quavo diss about we wanted Takeoff more than we wanted you, or we wish you were dead more. That was crazy. For me personally, I'm like, I never thought that one bit. But after that nigga said that, I'm like,
And I was saying, I think there is
That's
a
crazy.
sentiment that Takeoff is the best lyricist, right,
Of
from
the
the
Migos?
Migos. And people,
possible. I need to listen closer.
And then the circumstances of it happening at a dice game when Quavo lost the dice game and got into an argument with the guy who shot,
I see.
that makes the whole thing more crazy. Yeah,
I didn't know that.
yeah.
So Quavo was the one that was.
It was over dice and over
Wait,
an argument.
I didn't know
think.
that there was
Yeah.
a game involved.
Yeah.
And
That's about it. Sorry.
Quavo, from what I remember, right, because that was a shocking day, right? Quavo got into a disagreement with this other guy over dice and over probably just clout, ego, like, I'm Quavo, you're not. You know what I mean?
or
Yeah.
the bubbling up of that. What were we referring to? That puffing out your chest. That's
Right.
underneath hip hop's. I mean,
Right.
underneath hip hop, which is kind
Yeah.
of in the black culture.
So this guy couldn't handle it and pulled out a gun and started shooting. But none of it needed to happen. So I think that's what makes Chris Brown's bar even worse, because it was almost Quavo. And Offset was not.
Or it might have
Yeah.
been even.
This was after they both dropped a joint album, too.
Or it might have even
Yeah.
been meant for Quavo. Let's say.
Yeah.
This was after Built for Only Infinity Links. What was it? What's it called?
Yeah, Infinity.
Infinity Links. Something Infinity Links.
Yeah.
What's this?
It's
was
the album
a
that
joint
Takeoff
album
and
that
Quavo had
Takeoff-
dropped together
The last
Right.
project they dropped together.
before Takeoff passed away.
Before Takeoff passed away.
Yeah.
That's true. Only Built for Infinity Links. I think.
Yeah, I
something
think
like
so.
that. Called
Infinity Links.
Yeah, it was, it was a play on the
Only built for Cuban links, yes.
one of my favorite albums. Top 5, actually, I think.
Yeah, but like I was saying, what is most interesting about this is the landscape of hip hop after this. The people that can work together. What are we going to talk about for the next few songs, for the next few projects? Is it just going to be mostly beefs?
Yeah.
I think we're in the beef era.
Sad.
We're in the beef era. How long is the beef era going to last?
The beef era, the great beef wars that were
sad.
promised.
Great beef war.
It's like
It's lunchtime.
Yes.
Sorry, you're finished.
no, it's okay. It's kind of upsetting to see the people who weren't directly involved in the beef having to quote unquote pick a side after this. Just because you have people like 21 Savage, who's very close with Metro and Drake.
Ah, I
And
see.
it's like people like that. It's like, where do you go? Travis Scott as well. Like Future, loves Future. Hangs out with Drake.
I don't
people like
trust
that.
Well, Travis Scott.
I don't trust Travis.
Apparently, Travis Scott might be a traitor.
What? Wait,
Travis
what
Scott.
Might be a traitor to Drake.
You have info I don't know.
No, because Travis
me about
Scott. Well, there is a clip of Travis Scott egging on Future to play the song like that at a Travis Scott
Before it
concert.
was-
Oh yeah, I watched that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he must have heard Kendrick's.
Is it possible?
Portion.
Okay,
You think he didn't hear it?
It may be possible that
He didn't hear it at
Right,
that point?
the verse wasn't
that
there.
They just played
That
in
it-
Future's verse?
the verse wasn't there. Probably could have been. It's possible.
Maybe, but Drake brought it up in push-ups. So it feels like Drake took it the other way.
Yes, but
Yeah.
Drake was saying like that was a sneaky move, playing the song there, on Travis. I think it was on Travis's.
Yeah, and then he said after that, something about when your baby mama gets to talking, like you won't be smiling or you won't have that smile on your face or something.
Well, I think he
Who
was
said
just
this,
making the
Travis?
reference that he.
No. I think he was saying. I have to pull up the lyrics, and I don't have my phone, but
My phone's
I can pull up the
recording.
computer. But he was saying that your baby mama might have, like, I don't know if he was talking about Future baby mama or Travis's baby mama,
Oh, Drake.
slept with the other one on the stage. I think he was insinuating. So he might have been saying Kylie Jenner slept with Future, or maybe one of Future's baby mamas slept with Travis. And it's like,
I thought he was just making a reference that he fucked one of their baby mamas.
but why would he? He's talking about why are you guys being all buddy on stage?
Was that the specific thing he was saying?
I'll pull up the list.
Well, do you have?
Yeah.
Let's bring out a third technology here if we have it, so that we don't disrupt the recording.
No, not on my phone. I have the laptop. But you should set up.
Oh, you were gonna bring your laptop. Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Well, you can bring that too.
Bro, Moo keeps texting me, and he knows we're recording a podcast episode.
He wants to go in.
Nah, he has a rehearsal for his play that he's doing,
He's doing a play.
and
He's
yeah,
doing a play.
He is for church, and
That's beautiful.
yeah,
That's
And-
wholesome.
he texted me right, and then like 20 minutes later, he texted me back because I didn't respond to him. He's like, "Bro, you don't love me no more." I'm like, I'm recording a podcast episode, and I said you need a wife to bother ASAP.
That's crazy.
And he's like, "You should say that in the podcast." So I'm saying it now.
That's wild. Well, I
glad
pulled
you
this
said
up, but I don't have internet.
Are we? What are we
We're looking up push-ups lyrics.
Push-ups. And when Drake said that line about Rolling Loud on stage,
Right, it wasn't Rolling Loud. It wasn't Travis. It was Travis Scott performing at Rolling Loud. Other than that, you think anybody else is gonna come out and say a diss towards another person soon?
Do you know how?
Any other beefs we should know about?
okay, Rolling Loud stage, y'all were turned. That was slick as hell. Shit'll probably change if your BM start to kiss and tell. And Kiss and Tell is also I think, album by Sierra. So he's talking about
Future.
baby mamas.
Future.
So maybe he's saying, and look,
I didn't even catch that. That went
it
over
could
my
be
head.
it could be a complete coincidence that Kiss and Tell is also like an album or a
By
project by Sierra, right? But that sounds like he's saying like, if one of your baby mamas start to kiss and tell, I don't think you guys would be buddy on stage right now.
That's not the way I took it.
Him,
I thought he was referring to himself having slept with one of their baby mamas.
him or his ghostwriter or whoever knew what they were doing.
So, I mean, we were talking about choosing sides. I think Travis is on whoever's side is the most convenient for his rollout.
It's rule out.
Honestly, you know, people that are going to be on the fence about all of this are going to be like Lil Baby, Lil Durk.
Well, Lil Baby was on Future's album.
But Lil Baby collaborates with Drake and is always hanging around Drake.
I guess.
You know what I'm saying? So he's not going to be able to...
But you don't think that, like, featuring yourself on somebody's project who is publicly expressing, like, a attitude towards somebody else would be seen as picking a side?
I would if the other person didn't give him one of his biggest songs. Two of his biggest songs. Drake jumped on Lil Baby's song the first time a lot of people heard of Lil Baby. So Drake is responsible for a lot of people's, you know, top,
Their best song.
you know, the heights of their career at that point, right? But, so I don't know, and they're always
Maybe not even their
together.
best song, but definitely
Yeah.
their most popular.
And then Lil Durk went from, you know, being, you know, part of Vultures 1 to, like, Kanye saying that they have a problem, you know, now, and, you know, he's dissing Kanye on track, so...
Who, Lil Durk?
Yeah,
Kanye has a problem with everybody.
Kanye has a problem. But
Why is he dissing Kanye on track? What's going on here?
Did Kanye leave out Lil Durk or something?
No. Lil Durk was dissing, like, Yeezy gear. Or Yeezy, like, take off that Yeezy or something. And he's like, you know, he told him to change the line 4 times, and on every time he's dissing Yeezy. And then he's like, "You're breaking my heart."
Who?
Like, Kanye was like that to Lil Durk, "You're breaking my heart. Like, why you got to do this?"
He said that to him publicly?
He said that to him.
I
Right.
see.
This was in that interview. What do you think of these YZY Pods?
Oh, Jesus Christ. You mean socks with rubber taped to them? That's what that is. Those are socks.
I'll give my honest
West
review.
went.
They look comfortable as shit.
They're comfortable indoors, but I don't know what he was thinking. I think these are not great to walk around with outside.
Oh, I could definitely see that.
Because look, there's a gap in
There's a
between,
huge gap.
right?
Stepping on rocks and shit.
Right? And I just sometimes, you know, when you step on stairs and it's like the point of the stairs,
Oh,
right? And sometimes like you just want to step on that point with your sneaker and, like, you know, sort of hop onto the step.
Yeah.
Right? You can't do that with these.
Are those
You
expensive?
might hurt yourself.
You might
No,
hurt
these are
yourself.
$20. I was not going to spend more than $100
Oh, okay.
on these.
I was about to say.
But I will
Huge sale,
commend
right?
him that they are just $20.
I would wear those around my house. I'm not gonna lie.
I dare him to leave them at $20. You know?
Outside though,
Yeah.
nah.
Look, the way I see it. Sometimes, look, man. There is one section of art that I think I find least understandable, plausible at times, and that's fashion.
I get it.
Fashion.
It took me a while, but I get it.
fashion. Like, you see clips online of like these runway models, and then their
I
outfits,
don't get.
and it's just like, okay, so are these outfits just for like now, like just this moment? Is it what is it? There's always a statement that you don't get, layered in like three layers deep of irony.
Yeah. So I think. So my honest opinion.
And for me, it's like look. Sorry, real quick. This is what I mean by fashion. Are those some sort of edgy design that I don't understand, or are they just socks with pads on the bottom of them? Like, you understand what I'm saying?
These are
You see
definitely
what I'm saying?
socks with pads on
That's
the
where
bottom.
that's why fashion sometimes I'm just like.
yeah.
They're not
so
just socks with pads.
They're not just socks.
My opinion on all that is just like fashion to that degree is just throwing shit at the wall and seeing what sticks with the masquerade that you won't understand it because this is too artistic for you to understand.
Right. It feels like it could be that in the world of fashion, they take the liberty of confusion that a person could feel when it comes to art. They take advantage of that confusion and say, this is something that you just don't get.
Right, exactly. So
this
it's
is
like
something that you don't get.
It's like putting an apple on a pedestal.
Right.
Being like, this is what's
right.
up.
Straight thought. Regular person's mind, straight thought. That's an apple on a table. On their head, in the fashion person's, I mean, I don't know what's going on in the fashion person's head, but what they'll say to that person is, you don't understand. This is a declaration of the control of our education system on our youth. It's an apple on a table. No, it's the system and how it crushes down on imagination. Because all you see is an apple on a table.
Do you think
know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's playing into the confusion.
Right. I have
And
a
that,
It's like extremely good gaslighting.
that's
I
what I think.
have a super meta question. Do you think that music is a more objective art than fashion
Yes.
and other forms of art?
Yes.
More objective?
Yes.
Like, what do you mean? It's like...
There's less room for debate when it comes to music.
Well, yeah, I mean, music is... Okay, I think, like, on, let's say, art scales from obvious to, and this is where you start to get into just bad, but ambiguous. Like obvious to ambiguous. Like, if somebody goes on stage, they do a backflip, they contort their body in all sorts of ways, magic, things like that. It's just like obvious, right? Like, there's no mistaking it. That thing looked like it just disappeared. That person just contorted their body, shot a bow through a thing. That's obvious. There's no doubt that was cool.
Yeah.
When it comes to music, it scales a little bit closer to the more ambiguous, to the more like, yes, you can find some people that you don't know if this is good or bad. You know what I'm saying?
Music to me
Art,
is pickier.
Art, yeah. Art, music specifically has the possibility of also being just as, like, okay. Like, remember...
It's debatable.
Right, right. Do you remember... Okay.
Can the camera see those?
So this is an artist.
Yeah.
These are where I would introduce artists that sound good but aren't. Like, here we go. Action Bronson, Logic, who's another one? Russ is getting a little better, but there's a way he sounds that just doesn't quite hit quite right.
Nav.
Yeah, people that like give you
like
people that give you the illusion, people that give you the outward illusion like it's polished, it's clean. Logic has great production. Logic has great flow. It sounds like you're hearing music, but then when you listen closer, this dude has actually said things akin to murder is bad, don't do it. Suicide is wrong, seek help.
Yeah.
Baffling. Truly, astoundingly deep, even thoughts, Logic. Wow. Anyway, but not to diss him too hard, but like there's things like that where it's just like, it's almost like a polished turd. but
the imagery.
But I think I think music also has the possibility of just being like, no, that was good. Easily that was
Well, I just think like scientifically, our ears we have more boundaries and rule sets as to what humans hear as opposed to what we see.
Right.
Do you think that if Michael Jackson was singing in like the 1800s, people would know that this is all time?
That's another good question. Yeah. I think his vocals, yes.
Like, you just hear it and be like, damn, that's beautiful.
He may not be able to have all the technology that he wanted that we have here, that we even had in the 1980s, 1970s, 1990s that created his music. But if he goes back in time and he snaps his finger and he sings a tune on beat.
Well, I think what he was saying was like actually taking something that was crafted in his era and showing it to someone from that era.
I mean,
that would be confusing.
Both. I mean, I wonder what they would think. Like, oh my God, I can't listen to this.
Right, like,
Or,
if you take some of the more electronic music that we have now, right? Like,
that's kind of what they did with rock and roll.
The funny joke, right?
Right. That's kind of what they did with rock and roll, going from that when rock and roll started to become more, popular, cutting edge. I guess that
just thrusting it on America.
Yeah, like that Elvis realm. I don't really know too much about.
Yeah,
that
it went like from, it went from like Do the Twist or something to like Elvis Presley, which was like a drastic change.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
and just changed everything else.
Well, we also have to think about the fact that this music was already kind of bubbling under the surface with black artists before Elvis Presley. So there was already a precedent. Like, you might, let's say if you're a white person, you might hear like in the background like black people in, I don't know where they would have radios, or maybe if you right wherever you would hear them, and if you would ever hear their music, you'd hear a little bit of a different type of music. You'd hear a different type of music that you would hear your own, but it's already there. It's already a prerequisite. And then Elvis comes in, and he's white, and he knows how to hit the grooves, and he knows how to dance at least well enough, and it works. Because it's more palatable for the audience, but it's already kind of there. But I think, taking the music from a century later or 2 centuries later and taking it back, like the music itself, I think Michael Jackson's music would definitely be, yes, the way you react, maybe something like that or a little bit crazy.
I think Michael Jackson's a little more timeless than, like, let's say, I don't think any of them would understand hip hop.
No,
at that time,
no.
They wouldn't at all. They think it's probably alien.
So my thing on music is it's like time. It's very forward moving, and there's not really like, if a lot of times now, and as music has grown over the years, even if you're not outright sampling something else to make in like modern production, you're using motifs from orchestral music from the that era, and you're implementing it into melodic structures today. If you were to take these new sounds that were built upon those old sounds and then bring it back, maybe it'll be a little bit confusing. But as you go through the eras and see how it all kind of Lego built on top of each other, it makes a lot of sense.
I mean hindsight, yes, looking backwards, our hindsight is definitely clear on the steps we took to get to the music that we got to now. Yeah, I think in terms of taking that music that we have now, removing so many of these steps and taking it back then, it is quite literally ahead of its time. But then, like, I think what Bio's referring to is, like, is it palatable still? Because it's palatable. We understand all the layers that were built on it to get to the what it is now, but we don't, like, if somebody played us a song, right? If somebody played us a song from the year 3160 and it's just a beat and it's a bop in 3160, but just a beat. You know what I mean? But like, I don't know if a song would just be just a beat. But it's hard to discern how we would respond to it, how times back then would respond to it. I do think what you're referring to in terms of, or I think what you're understanding in what you're referring to in terms of, like, there's a musical layer that will always work, past, present, and future. I think that's true. That's why I said Michael Jackson would have to slow it down and be like, "Hey, pretty lady, you high." If he sang that song in the 1960s, in the 1950s, in the 1930s, "Hey, pretty baby, with your high heels on, you give me fever." It's a groove. He knows how to sing. He just needs to snap his fingers. I'm sure the orchestras at those times would definitely give him a different beat.
Yeah, you'd have to
But
fit it into the
I
era.
think
Right.
that
I
would
think you can
always
find
work.
it.
I think that would always work. Get maybe like if you go all the way back to, I mean, where are we talking? We're talking about the the 1600s, the 1500s, where they're wearing like tight leggings and they're all dancing.
I think if he started snapping his fingers and moving like that, he gets.
I think that.
what would they
Yeah.
think about the moves?
Yeah,
I think that there is maybe the movements are blasphemy for the time, but
Oh,
I think
I'm tearing up.
I think that there is music that is just in general timeless that can be swapped amongst eras, but it really depends on how far between these eras are.
Right.
Because
But
if you don't know like how you got from one place to another, it just doesn't. Sometimes it doesn't make any sense.
right. But also, okay, the lyrics, right? Even the example that I use, were they wearing high heels in the 1950s, in the 1940s? You know, they'd be like, "Oh, that was a dope tune."
Yeah.
The fucker high heels.
Yeah.
They know what a pretty lady is. So
Yes, they know what a pretty lady is. The pretty lady will always remain a pretty lady. But, you know, there's lyrics that are also very interesting too. But I guess if he hummed it, like you would really have to break it down to like its most basic layer and then rebuild from there for that song to really exist in that era. I think there would have to be a reduction of all these different things so that it could fit. And then like, all right, I'm gonna add a guitar. They're like, what's a guitar? All right, ready?
I want to take Nav's lyrics and bring it back in the day. See what they think about it.
Oh man,
Probably think it's a demon on the track.
a demon.
I'ma put a baby in a belly.
He said that.
That's crazy.
That's fucking Bob. I think the only song that I've ever actually listened to with Nav in it was the song with Don Toliver. They did like a collab, a feature. It was a great Don Toliver chorus. Don Toliver's been killing it, by the way.
Yeah, he's so good.
It was a great Don Toliver chorus.
I don't think he's peaked yet.
He's got a great voice.
Yeah, he's got a great voice. There's this one song he just dropped. It's like the rock.
Right. He's wearing like leather in the video. Very interesting.
Video.
Very, very interesting video style too.
I'm like, to me, his confidence has grown on the mic, right? Because it felt like he was more reserved when he was first coming out. But the way he's sounding on the mic now and his vocals, I'm like, this gives me chills. Like when I hear him.
Do you feel?
Yeah.
Are we talking about before Can't Say or after Can't Say on Astro World when he did that's him
After
feature?
Can't Say.
Because I feel like
he keeps getting better.
Because I feel like when he did his feature on Can't Say, that was one of the strongest vocal performances I've heard from him.
Yeah. This recent track is the strongest one yet for me.
That was crazy.
Oh, I love that verse. That was a good song. That was a good project.
I think Astro Roots Travis's best work so far.
Utopia has grown on me.
Also, notice the way weren't the female MCs or the female rappers like dissing each other before all this? Like, what happened to those beefs? Wasn't like Ice Spice dissing like Lotto and
There's a rap
Cardi and
civil
Nicki
war going on over there.
Oh my God.
And I think it's Cardi, I think it's Lotto, and I think it's Meg.
Yes, it's Meg.
Nicki,
Meg.
Ice Spice.
Yeah, Meg and Nicki
And-
just definitely don't like each other.
Yeah. So it's Meg, Cardi, and Lotto, because Cardi B has worked with both Meg and Lotto and helped them make some of their biggest songs. But it's Nicki, Ice Spice, because Ice Spice and Lotto don't seem to like each other. I don't know who else is on Nicki's team, to be honest. I think Glorilla is on Cardi B's side. I think. It's none of my business. It's none of my business.
These beefs, man.
It's the beef era.
These beefs.
The great beef era that was promised.
Beef era that was promised.
Yeah.
The great beef.
I
It was
remember-
prophesied.
I remember when Pusha T's verse came out, or track came out against Drake a few years ago, and that was like the biggest beef at the fucking time.
Yeah.
And now it's like people are dropping tracks like this track left and right, and once at least a couple times a week.
Do you think Pusha saw push-ups and immediately thought to himself, as Drake finally crossed the line? Like, have you seen those memes where it's like the dog looking at the other dog from the car? And it's like, this is Pusha T looking at Drake, waiting for him to say something just off on push-ups about him.
I see.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know.
I still think that what Pusha said about Drake was worse than what Drake said about everybody else, to be honest, about him hiding his son.
Yeah, those are. I mean, those are the type of details those are coffin ceiling details.
Talking about his father was a bum to him, so he's a bum to his son.
Which I'm curious, is anyone going to drop a detail like that?
I think
I
that's
hope
the
so.
route that Kendrick
You
is
think
going to take.
that's the route that Kendrick's going to take? Like,
If I was Kendrick, I would consult all the great beef artists of our era, right? I would call them up and say, what would you do? I would crowdsource all these strategies, and I would drop the diss track to end all diss tracks. I'd do a whole video for it, and I would just make it as crazy as Hit 'Em Up. And just, really, I think there's an opportunity here. I think there's a huge opportunity here.
I just want to know how much they know that they're not making public just out of sheer, like, this is too crazy to put out publicly.
Yeah,
I want to know.
I want to know I want to know their information.
Yeah.
Like, what do they know about each other?
Yeah.
How? I'm starting to think Hollywood's like high school.
For sure.
I'm starting to think Hollywood's like high school because I don't just think it's, rumors being passed around like high school, gossiping like high school, everybody kind of being around in the same general vicinity, like, I'll just be in Cleveland. Oh, yeah, all of a sudden I caught up with this other celebrity here. I'm like, how?
Yeah.
How do you guys just know exactly where you,
Sometimes it's
You
also
communicate.
it's also just like an extravagant game of telephone at that level. As
right,
well.
or you could be, you all kind of go to the same places.
Right.
So there's the answer there. But I think I think they're all like in high school. They're all sleeping with each other.
No doubt.
I think
No doubt.
more than we know.
Yeah.
Way more than we know. And I'm talking across the board: music, TV, and film. Maybe less TV. I feel like.
Yeah, I wouldn't go.
I don't know though.
Probably,
It's just all industry. So
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
no, there's no doubt. Did you see Billie Eilish's recent Rolling Stone article? She just was on the cover, and she's like, and it's like, first of all, she's grown up so fast because she's talking about her favorite pastime is sex. And
Wait, what?
I'm telling you the truth, right?
Like that's her favorite thing to
Yeah,
do?
and she likes
Is
to
just sex?
look. She likes to look herself in the mirror.
She said this?
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
while she's masturbating. Right now, I'm only saying that because
This was in a Rolling Stones article.
It just came out, so I guess this is the rollout
When I
strategy.
revert back to my position. of
Yeah,
watching.
I think it's the rollout strategy.
Is she coming out with a project?
Yeah, she's coming out with a project. I think second week of May.
Is she about to be on YZY Corn?
Maybe. I mean, she could go anywhere at this point.
That'd be crazy.
She's
Nah.
Easy.
she's moving like that.
Corn. When he first said that, I was so confused. I immediately pictured like a PNG of
There's a
Kanye's
lot-
face on a corner of the.
What's up with that, by the way? There's a lot of that. Like, people don't say porn. They say corn. People don't say...
It's
for
because
the
of moderation.
People don't say, like, sexual assault. They say SA. People don't say, like...
It's because of the
They say-
content
they say
moderation
grape.
rules.
Yeah, it's because
on these platforms.
Because of these.
Really?
Yeah, so if you say the wrong thing, you might get demonetized or Surprise.
So, like, even if you're saying, like, this happened as information to somebody else.
Yeah.
You can't say that?
Even if you're just reading
So you have to say, like...
what this article says.
But, like...
You could be flagged.
So they're checking the video. You say grape 1.5 million times, and they know what you mean, but, like, we all know what he's saying. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, we know. But I don't think they have like people on it. I think it's just an algorithm at this point.
Right.
So the algorithm is just throwing you out of the mix if you say the wrong things.
It creates a transcript of what you're saying.
Billie Eilish. I knew she was gonna go sexual. They all do. Why do they do that? Why do they do that?
First they say, I don't want to be seen like that.
Right.
I don't want anything to do with that. Yeah.
Long ass sleeves.
Yeah.
He's covered up.
Then
Is it okay?
do you think there's people at the top
I want to say
who
this.
are like do you think there's people at the top who are like forcing her to act or
That-
have herself perceived a certain way?
Honestly, 10, 15 years ago, I wasn't 100% cognitive, but 10, 15 years ago, I would say that's a conspiracy theory. Easy, you know. Celebrities are pedophiles. No. But after Epstein Island, I said it. Like, I think Epstein Island is a turning point in the conspiracy theories side of the internet and also side of our thought process. Whereas now, I mean,
It's like we as humans, our instincts are usually on the money. We're built like that.
It's almost like
It's just that instinct you're feeling is so out of the norm
it's so crazy
that you don't want to
believe
conform
that.
with it. But
Right.
it's your first line of process.
I also realize, right, and this is why it's such a perfect strategy. I think if I was to give an analysis, how I think these guys operate, I think the best way to operate is in confusion. You know what you're doing. You're straight up about it. Well, not straight up about it, but like you have a straight line as to what you're doing and why you're doing it, be it devious or not. And these guys, you know, the people I'm talking about tend to be devious. But I think what happens is they play on the confusion of if we start to think, right? If we start to think that pedophiles in the music industry, pedophiles in the movie industry, pedophiles in the TV industry, pedophiles in entertainment in general, Nickelodeon, for Christ's sake, Nickelodeon. If we start to think that stuff, we immediately start thinking to ourselves, everyone across the board, that's absurd.
You know,
That all of them
you know
are
what?
like
That all of them, or like even a decent amount of them.
You know
even
what
like a
Lethal
small
said?
amount of them.
Lethal was telling us a story the one time that we were all sitting in here. We had like a meeting or something.
So let me finish the top part.
Oh,
Lose it.
okay.
Real quick,
Sure.
because I'm gonna lose it. So that point in which you start to consider that, all like that all that sexual predatory behavior is too preposterous to believe is exactly where they want you to be, because it is too preposterous to believe. But then it turns out those innuendo jokes that Nickelodeon was making weren't innuendo. Those and Harvey Weinstein was who he is. Epstein Island is real. like the
Probably gets worse than that.
the human trafficking, child sex trafficking, that sort of trade. It's in the billions in terms of revenue.
Yeah.
Billions. And you think the richest people in the world, or some of the richest people out there, billions in revenue, it's not gonna hit their radar at some point in some sort of way. They're just gonna ignore it. Oh, we're too good for this, or we're above this. It's cross streaming. There's no way.
It's like The Most Dangerous Game, that book. You know,
Sorry, continue.
there's only pleasures available for people that super rich, because no one else could even afford to do it or get away with it.
Right.
So So only the richest people in the world could be involved in that. Everyone else would be arrested on site. You know what I'm saying? That's why when you see like TV shows and movies depict it, that's like the worst thing a human being could possibly do. Yeah.
Please
Go
tell
ahead.
me your story.
Lethal, we were all sitting here like a meeting or something, and Lethal was saying how like, you know, that conspiracy and like all those things that come out about how pastors are like molesting children and stuff.
That's
in church.
also true. That's actually
Right.
true.
Right, exactly. So Lethal said, when he was like talking about different stories that were coming up, there was somebody who went undercover to go be one of the, I guess, the pastors or preachers that was learning at the Vatican City, like church, because they have a school for the preachers to and the pastors to like learn how to be a preacher and study everything. He said that the person that went undercover there had found that out the gate, everybody who was already attending that school was gay.
Really?
Everybody was. You're like, people think that like, oh, there's a couple here and there that are like, you know, getting with little boys and stuff, but everybody who was in that school learning how to go, all of them
To be priests.
to be priests,
Were
all gay in that church. That
how would they know that? Did they admit to it?
they were all talking about it in there, according to Lethal.
And it was just normal?
yeah, it was just normal. All of them knew each other was gay.
I could definitely believe that there's like an entrenched thing going on in the Catholic Church that's been hidden for decades. That's where something like that would be festering.
Right.
I always like to give the benefit of the doubt on the human side and be like, this is on not benefit of the doubt. Not benefit of the doubt because these are pedophiles. I'm Jesus Christ.
There is no benefit.
No, it's more so that I'm thinking the process is repression of, you know, I mean, like, I'm thinking repression, I'm thinking a whole bunch of a variety of psychological issues as to why to even get into a priest position, like a position that's supposed to be holy and clean and then like pure to a certain extent, and then do one of the most impure things, and especially to a child.
That's why I think it's gotta be worse.
That's where my brain goes.
A mental condition or something.
Right.
Or like a repression of sorts, or like you have unresolved issues and you need therapy. I think it has to be almost religious in nature. Right.
Well, see, this is what I think. What's also happening
to get into a position, it's like being a police officer who's a serial killer.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
But I think what's also happening.
That's planned.
Well, I think what's also
that's on purpose.
Yeah. I think what's also happening here is we're both trying to find an explanation for what the hell. That's what I'm saying. Like, I think what we're both trying to come to grasp with was like there has to be some sort of walk through explanation as to how a person can get to that sort of mindset, because it's so weird. Priest with a child, right? It's so weird. It's so weird. And like for me, okay, so the Dan Schneider thing, Dan Schneider from Nickelodeon.
I still gotta watch that.
It's crazy. I haven't finished it yet either. I only saw the first.
I watched it. It was crazy.
I didn't see the full thing.
I
saw I think like an episode or two.
I can never see those shows the same way again.
Right. That's so crazy.
All over.
That's so crazy.
All
Do
done.
you feel like?
Yeah.
I don't want to, because those are very serious situations. That ruins like all of our childhoods, honestly. But do you feel like, for the sake of just being interviewed and like when people come out to talk about things, do you feel like certain things were being exaggerated for the sake of like, feel bad for me, or do you think majority of it was from a genuine
So I
stand?
do think some of it was trying to paint a narrative, right? Particularly around Amanda Bynes. He did end up falling into the, pattern of child actor, syndrome, where once they grow into adulthood, they really go off the beaten path, right? But I don't know if it's because of essay, right, or anything like that. Even though they were implying it, she never herself has come out to say that in the same way that like Drake Bell has, right? In fact, some of these child actors still defended some of these people, right? That were running, you know, like. What was surprising is there were child actors that worked with Dan Schneider that defended him, right? Like one of them even interviewed him, like, "Oh, tell your side of the story," you know. But
seriously,
I do think that there's enough there to damn the whole thing, right? There's enough there to be like, how is it that there was not one, not two, but like 3 pedophiles that went to jail,
all in the same,
from one studio
vicinity?
That's crazy.
That is crazy.
Even if it's coincidental,
right? What I was referring to in terms of Dan Schneider and that rationalization or understanding of what the hell is going on here, I can see somebody like Schneider, right? The priesthood is a different thing, but I can see somebody like Schneider in a position like you're the producer of that show, you're the showrunner, you're like, because this is still an industry, this is still a company, it still has office buildings, there's still different jobs, different roles and assignments, different points of hierarchy. But at the position that Dan Schneider was in, right, and specifically in the TV movie industry, you're actually like in position to usher people into their dreams or stop them at the gate. That's a dangerous power. And I think
the other dangerous part about it is television was such a powerful tool for mass consumption because we're all watching the same programming. It's not like now where it's all like personalized and I'm in a different part of the internet. We're all watching the same thing.
That even puts further credence into the idea that might have played out in Dan Schneider's head.
I'm a god.
They interviewed 2 former writers, female writers. Of course, he was a misogynist as well.
Oh yeah.
Right. And the female writer was like, "This is my dream. Like, I'm working on Nickelodeon. I'm working on a TV show. I'm a writer for a TV show. So if Dan Schneider says jump, I say how high." You understand that?
Yeah.
And the hope there.
That's the other thing.
And the hope there is that Dan Schneider isn't a manipulative monster creature who's going to take advantage of the fact that you're trying to achieve your dreams and you think Nickelodeon is a gateway to that. Or you think Dan Schneider, I mean, he clearly is a gateway to that.
Some of the people, I will admit, were probably less than honest about their complicitness to all 100%. This.
Right.
They were trying to paint themselves in the
mother who said that her daughter was given an email by one of the other pedophiles and it was naked, and she goes, "I felt like I shouldn't tell the police." I'm just like, I squint a little, I'm just like,
like, come on.
Not only am I telling the police, I'm gonna go to his house and I'm gonna beat him up.
Wow. The other thing too, you know, there were some parents like Drake's dad who was trying to be an attentive parent, was trying to be there for their kid, and the other parents, you know, maybe didn't do their due diligence or believe them, or, you know, people let the studio, you know, have a bigger voice, or they believe the studio instead of believing the actual parent who was trying to bring some of this up.
Right. I mean, another parent. There was another parent. I think she was a black lady. I think she was black in the documentary. I forgot who she. I think she was a mother of one of the actors, one of the female child actors at the time. Mm-hmm. But she was saying that, like, it was either her or somebody else that was saying that, like, the general behavior from a parent is that, like, this is their dream. or my dream
Right.
achieved through there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
Living through.
But regardless, my behavior, I can't be uppity. I can't be too much. I can't be this or that and the third.
Or you might get in the way of your
Or you
child's
might
dream.
get in the way of their child's dream. Or even worse, right? And this is where you get into the other side of the terrible parenthood, where it's just like, yeah, Dan, you can take this so-and-so child as long as you want, because you're the runner of the show, my child, but you can spend time with them as much as you want, because the more they're in your good graces, the more we're in your good graces, and that means that we have more opportunities for more shows, we have opportunities for movies, maybe one day I can be friends with Angelina Jolie, some crazy shit like that. But I think I can understand, right? This is what I'm saying. I think I can understand on the more industry, music, TV, film industry side of things, you're standing between somebody and their dreams, and that's going to go to your head if you're already a devious human being, or you have elements of devious behavior bubbling within you, and now you've been given literally the rod to part the seas for these people. Right? You're gonna take advantage of that power. Power tilts towards corruption, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But I don't, and this is where my mind has to find ways to cope. I don't understand the priesthood one. I
think there's something more going on
it
there.
could be power as well. Power could definitely be the answer there. But like, these kids don't have ambitions to be priests. They're just probably doing this because their parents told them to, or they have to just like be there.
Right.
Like, this position isn't some position. I mean, like, sure, you're helping people get into a better life, and, you know, if it's real, get into heaven. But clearly doing this behavior is not going to help you or them. but like, it's like, what's going on here? What the hell is this going on here? You can even understand it, like I said, industry, music industry and all these different things, and different other industries that we don't even know about the sexual assault going on in these industries. Maybe even in politics.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, obviously. But like, the priesthood one, that's a perverted kind of power that I don't even understand. The other ones make sense because it's position and status, and we all understand
I
that.
do think that when something gets to that level of evil, there's intention, right, as well. Because it's like what I was saying with the police whose officer was a serial killer, right? You are in that role specifically because it's hilarious. It's to you, right? It's like the Joker. It's that Joker mentality. You know
Well,
what
okay, it
I'm
also
saying?
depends.
Yeah.
It also depends on when this person has become a serial killer.
Do you think so?
You're right. It does. When did they become a serial killer? Is the person a cop? There was an animation, right, counterpart to the show The Boys. You seen The Boys?
No.
With you haven't seen The Boys on Amazon Prime about superheroes?
Well, isn't that the show that Metro sampled? Wait,
Yeah,
with Homelander?
Yeah,
That's the
Homelander.
show?
Yeah.
He sampled it?
I think so. Yeah, he sampled it on
sampled
Heroes
Homelander.
versus Villains.
Heroes versus Villains, yeah.
Yeah.
He did?
Yeah, he did.
He
It
sampled-
was the whole thing.
He sampled Homelander's speech when he's on the stage saying,
Right.
"You need me," or whatever.
Right,
he's
right,
saying.
right.
Oh.
Right.
Yeah, he sampled Everybody was talking
Right.
about
Check
it.
out the show, by the way. It's a great show.
a
If you have
great
the time
show.
to, it's a
I
great
didn't
show.
know he
But there was a
sampled
companion piece to that show as a prerequisite. It was like a cartoon, I think, showing Homelander before he was Homelander. I don't know if you've seen it.
I don't think so.
Right, but like, it showed him like on his first mission. He was like, I'm here to do good and save people and all these different things. And he hasn't done anything quite cruel yet. He may be a little twisted underneath the surface, right? But he hasn't done anything quite like we've seen with Homelander do recently. But then like, something happens. He goes, oh my God, what have I done? This and that and the third. And then like, his immediate mindset was like, I gotta cover this up. Nobody can see this. I gotta stop this. And then I think Noir shows up and he tries to kill Noir. He's like, you saw, I have to kill you now. And it's just like, I think there are some people, essentially, what I'm trying to say here is, there's always that bubble, that undercurrent of what you could possibly be, and it could be devious, and then this thing happens, or you're already devious, you're already a psychopath, you're the Joker, and then you're just like, it wouldn't be so funny if I became a
I
cop.
think something interesting that kind of ties into that is, like, in general, I feel like when you're in a position of power, whether it's to provide someone with, you know, opportunities, or to provide people with relief, or to lift someone else's burden, it's kind of like that situation where, like, your therapist needs a therapist to unload their burdens to. And I feel like a lot of the people in great levels of power don't have someone that they can confide in themselves, so that it leads to, like, an ultimate level of, like, psychotic behavior where they're just internally keeping all of these thoughts to themselves, and they don't have the gall to go to someone else who's below them, because they don't want to be perceived as weak, or like someone who like they want to maintain their position of power while simultaneously, you know what I'm trying to say?
Right.
Yeah, like they don't want to be humbled.
Hey, right.
Yeah.
Right. So I feel like people in general with great positions of power, like how you said how power tilts towards corruption.
Yeah.
I feel like the people at the tippity top, where there's not someone who's necessarily keeping them in check, that's where it can derail. Whereas where you have people who, you know, you're looking up to somebody, it's like, hey, I have issues, let me talk to you about it, or like, help me get through this. When you have that guidance, it's so much easier to stay on a path that's deemed as good.
Right. This is why it's probably important to have. This is probably why it's important to grow with your people. Right, and to grow, if you're, you know, if you're lucky, maybe not even lucky, but if you move correctly, you grow correctly with your people, as in, like, if you all at some point are now, you know, you started off ambitious and searching for a dream and achieving it and hardworking, but then, like, you're all, like, 10 years later sacrificing goats and worshiping Baal. You've all fucked up.
Yeah, you've all made a great mistake.
You all fucked up. What if one of you's unfortunately sacrificing goats or worshiping Baal or something like that, and your other friends are like, hey man, what the hell?
What happened?
What happened?
Yeah.
It's possible that you can redeem yourself.
Yeah.
But I think it's important to have people that you can actually look up to, that you can, especially when you're growing.
Right.
Because it's probably harder to go to a therapist. Like you're, you know, we like to think of The Sopranos. We like to think of...
Don't spoil shit. I'm on the last season. If you say anything...
No, I'm not spoiling anything. I'm not spoiling
to
anything.
ruin...
No, I'm talking about the premise of a drug dealer. Like, I feel like it's an anecdote. Like a drug dealer or a crime boss having a therapist.
Right, going to Dr.
Right,
Melfi.
right, like a president having a therapist, or a prime minister having a therapist, the king or the queen having a therapist. It's just like, this is strange, isn't it? And it is strange in the sense that it usually would be that in their heads you're trying to as a therapist tell me better ways to orient myself so that my life can be more successful. Correct? But I'm more successful than you. So how do you resolve my problems?
I think it's okay because the therapist is more successful.
I'm saying that's what they're thinking. Probably.
They're probably like, oh, I want to get,
like Kanye is.
They're probably
Kanye
super type A.
Kanye has said very publicly, if you're not richer than me, I'm not taking advice from you.
Yeah, that's probably what the person's
Sway.
thinking.
You don't got the answers, right?
But the therapist is more successful along, hopefully, a particular, vertical.
So the
than
best
you are.
therapist in the world, essentially. Is that what you would say that they would?
I mean,
probably...
not the best therapist in the world. They just have to be a more content, purveyor of the mental landscape than you.
Yeah, therapists
You know what I mean?
in general. So, like,
Yeah.
the fact that you, who's supposed to be this almighty person who feels like you can do whatever you want, you have an ego, an extraordinarily big ego, you're still taking the time to confide in an individual that you don't necessarily know too well. And that then leaves the therapist in a situation where, like, you know, I am able to now mold your way of thinking.
Right, but okay, so essentially you're saying that there has to be a certain level of humility that would even allow a person like that to enter a therapist's office. Is that what you're referring to?
Yeah, and they have to be willing to, you know...
Do you think that's unlikely, though?
They have to be willing to be a student at something.
Yeah.
And in this room, I'm the student.
Mm-hmm.
And
Right.
I think that's part of the point of having, like, you know, an advisor or, like, the hand to the king.
Or you know, even in many texts, humility.
Right, humility.
Humility.
But it's also interesting because at what point do you not take, you know, teachings or advice from someone like that?
The answer should be never. You should always be learning.
Well,
Not necessarily
I didn't
learning.
Trust
I'm
Dr. Melfi in Sopranos because she seemed like she.
Is her name Dr. Melfi?
Dr.
Yeah.
Melfi.
She didn't.
God, I haven't seen that show.
She didn't seem like a more healed human being, or that much more healed than.
I see.
Right,
Tony,
that's what
you
I'm
know what I'm
saying.
saying?
So,
Right.
like, at what point, though, you know, like, at what point do you determine that the person who I am confiding in, I'm listening to you, I'm taking your advice, I'm doing everything you want me to do, but then you say something peculiar where it makes your gears turn a little bit, where it's like, do I listen to you in this
Right.
moment?
So you were referring to somebody that has achieved a better contentment on the you know, you were saying the mental landscape.
Yeah.
A better contentment, and that's what they you know, a student to that.
It's why, like, they go seek out gurus and they go seek out
Right.
yogis. You know, this person isn't richer than me. This
Right.
person isn't more accomplished than me. But this person seems like they got something figured out.
What if that person says you should cut half your money and you'll be happier?
Yeah, so that basically summarizes the question I posed, like, before. It's like, at what point, like, if you were my therapist and I was rich and you told me cut your money in half, do I listen to you?
That's a good question. That's a good question.
Right. So, like, that's what I'm saying. Like, how do we determine that, though, as people? Like, what's the line that we determine, like, someone I'm confiding in all this time, the one thing that you say, I've been listening to you consistently all this time, at what point do I say to myself, maybe that isn't the greatest idea or things?
Well, you could also say that a person that's trying to give another person, you know, in good faith, good advice, wouldn't necessarily say cut your money in half. But then if your complaint is that, you know, more money, more problems, you know, in short, if that's what you've come in with, more money, more problems, you know, and they're like, maybe you should give some away, charity or other things like that. You know, I think you know, this is probably why the Bible mentions it's harder for a rich man to get into
Enter the kingdom of heaven.
Right, something like that.
Than a camel to enter into the eye of a needle.
Right. Because
yeah.
I think what comes with that is such a feeling. We kind of exist. We kind of exist between two different ends that we're constantly trying to avoid. And the one end is thinking that we're God, and then the other end is thinking that we're animals. We're not quite animals. We're not quite animals. You know, we're not foraging in the ground. You know, we have animal tendencies, but we're not quite animals. And we have God tendencies. We create, but we're not God. We create what is there for us to create with. He creates the things that you create your things with, essentially. And I think that's where we keep straddling the line between. And I think when it comes to that statement of the rich man, they're far into the deep end of thinking that they're God. Like what is Kanye saying on the daily, on more frequently than anybody than he should? Straight up, I am a God.
Yeah.
And a lot of these people probably think in their head, like, my life is of divine nature.
You know what's funny is as he was saying that, I just imagined someone clipping him saying, I am a god, and then immediately clipping to my life is divine in nature and turning it into a soundbite.
Probably. I mean,
Right.
it's inevitable now.
Yeah.
But good thing you said that. 'Cause
Right.
You just cockblocked. Yeah.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
But
I'm breaking
Yeah,
the
I
fourth
think-
wall.
Yeah.
right, I
Trolls.
think that may be where that indictment comes in, because it may be, and this is where I say, and I've mentioned this before, like, I think our mission, if we so choose to accept it, is to prove that on the road to our best version of ourselves, which is going to, I think, if you're on the road to bettering yourself, you're going to come across wealth. I think so. And when you're going to come across wealth, you're going to come across all the same temptations that all these people came across. Your mission, if you so choose to accept it, right? I was watching Mission Impossible the other way, which is what I'm saying like that. Your mission, if you so choose to accept it, is to prove, albeit the pull of pollution, of being polluted in riches, is strong, you overcome it. And I think it's so incredibly difficult. That's probably why they had to put that in the Bible. Something like that.
I do think that
Something like it. You. One of the reasons why I don't like to, albeit I'm judging rich people already, but I kind of refrain more often than not. Let's say I kind of refrain more often than not because I don't understand just the sheer amount of decisions and then the weight of each decision that these guys are making at a certain point. We're over here, full circle. We're over here talking about rap beefs, but Drake and Kendrick at their tables and with their team, they have to actually sit down and be like, look, if we come about this the wrong way, our brand could be tattered. Our possibility for shows could be shortened. Our relationships, the first week streaming numbers could go down real fast, and then stay there.
Can suddenly not be lit anymore.
Right. Yeah. So, beef to us, toss your verses into the air, right? But to them, it's like Drake has to respond. You see what I'm saying? He has to respond.
Yeah,
career-wise.
Yeah.
For the team, for the money for the team. I have to respond.
Feel like he feels that this has to be settled before he retires, and he wants it to be now.
Right. Yeah, you mentioned that's a different conversation, but you mentioned that.
Yeah, that word on the street is he's noticed this tension for 10 years, and yesterday I didn't have no time, but today I got time.
Right. Today I got time.
Today I got time.
Yeah,
that's essentially where he's at right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to know what you would do if you were not in those shoes. I do think there's a lot of people when you go on the path, the creative journey especially, and you're fulfilling whatever purpose you came here to fulfill, right? You are going to come acroose everything.
You're going to come across everything.
Wealth.
Yeah.
You're going to come across temptation.
All of it.
You're going to come across the choices.
All of it. I think so. I'm not. I don't
the
know yet.
choices you make,
but I feel like that's
will
true.
Decide whether you end up like Diddy,
the diddler,
or you end up like who's the person that's like universally
Mr. Rogers.
Maybe Mr. Rogers.
Universally what?
Loved.
Universally loved.
Ross.
And then
Bob Ross.
in hindsight, this is important, in hindsight, because we're going to do a documentary on you eventually. If you make it big enough.
It checks out.
Right.
Yeah.
In hindsight, we did the research.
Yeah.
And Mr. Rogers was levied the accusation of pedophilia. In hindsight, he wasn't. Thank God. Right.
Yeah.
Like in hindsight, he wasn't. He was actually a good person. He actually meant the messages. I mean, like, to the best of my knowledge, he actually meant the messages that he meant to say. He was an inspiration to a generation. Good memory. Nothing tattered, nothing ruined there. But like, it seems like, I think it's what we see is that in more cases than not, it seems people tilt towards corruption than they do the other way.
For sure.
But you know, and I think this is also important because, not to always bring up the Bible, but I think this is also important because I feel like when these guys were writing this thing all those years ago, divine proclamation, divine word, I think they were trying to understand ourselves. They were trying to understand humanity. They were trying to lay out who we are, you know, how we perceive ourselves and how we perceive the world around us. And I think one of the things that they recognize is, okay, somebody does a horrible thing. They tilt towards corruption. Right? Is that it? Damnation forever? They're still alive. What if that person says sorry? What if that person actually wants to change? Which is why I think redemption is possible. Like, who's the person that was a victim to Diddy that set this whole thing off? What's her name?
Cassie.
She was a victim, but also because of fame, she partaked. There was a certain element
more than she could chew.
Right.
Yeah.
And this could be an attempt at redemption. This could be an attempt at revenge. But I think there are definitely people out there that I want to return back from this. And I think that's why redemption is important. And which is why I think, as I mentioned, we've talked about this before, I think one of the things that I found so interesting when I was referring to Peterson's, he mentions the death of God. I think what's so interesting about that is that post the death of God, we as human beings, we forget mercy and we forget redemption. That's interesting to me, because it's just like, I thought that was kind of like something that, you know, it's in our laws, it's given, but like it's actually, why should we forgive? Why should we forgive? And I think the reason why is because
it actually harms your soul to not forgive more than it harms the other person in many cases.
Right.
The act of unforgiveness extended long enough,
and it creates a darker world.
It creates a darker world.
If everybody out here has no impetus to forgive whatsoever, even if it's a story in a book that's put in us, instilled in us this idea of forgiving, even when we have this limited capacity for forgiveness, but trying to exceed that capacity, I think that creates a better world for us just in general, versus a darker world where none of us, and there's no impetus to forgive whatsoever, none of us forgive anybody for anything, like anything. And I think that's so interesting.
What's interesting about that is that's the position that many places in the world are in.
Mm.
A lack of unforgiveness.
Right. Or lack of forgiveness.
Well, lack of unforgiveness. Lack of forgiveness.
Mm-hmm.
Right? If you look at, you know, wars that are happening, street, you know, beefs that are happening,
Right.
in inner cities, you know, wars in the Middle East, it's
Right.
all as a result of a lack of forgiveness.
Right,
Yeah.
but yeah, and then some of these conflicts are so deeply entrenched that like at
Yeah.
a certain point you just don't even know. Like, whoa, I don't know if I would either.
If you would forgive,
I wouldn't either. So I'm just sitting there, like, which is why we have some of these greater texts where it's just like, we have to input a greater sense of forgiveness at some point or another, or we're going to kill each other.
I think it's also why the core tenet of the biblical story is God's like, you killed me and I forgave you.
Right.
You know what I mean?
You committed
it's
very specifically on the Jesus Christ story. You've killed the most innocent person. You've killed the most non-guilty person. You've actually you not only killed him, you tortured him, You politically
You
shamed him.
humiliated
You
him.
humiliated
You
him.
lied on
You
him.
did every
You
single
bared
thing.
false
And then
witness against
right
him.
before he died,
Yeah.
he said, "To me, forgive all of you." And that is, at the very least, even if you don't believe in Christianity, it's a powerful story nonetheless. I think it's a reason why I think it's a canon story to humanity, but, you know, but I think it's interesting, you know, I think there's a lack of forgiveness, but I think there's also a lack of a redemption that I'm seeing happening out there, and I think we need to, that kind of went, the conversation.
I mean, it's the great beef era.
It's the great beef there.
Going off
Lunchtime. It's lunchtime.
Going off of forgiveness and like the whole response or no response with the whole beefs and stuff.
Right.
I think even if after this point no one responded, our generations, or at least the people who are now listening to music en masse, the attention spans are so small, it'll turn into a situation where a year will go by and they'll just drop music as normal and people will just completely forget. I mean, look what happened with Gunna. Like, people were calling him a snitch and then he dropped his project and that shit put up numbers.
Right. Well, yeah.
And now nobody gives a shit about like, oh, you snitched on Young Thug, did you or did you not? All this other
Young
shit.
Thug is still in. He's still in jail?
He's still in a trial.
He's still in the court
system.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what I'm like. Even if from this point forward, even if there were no more responses to this whole beef, I mean, just using that as an example, you really tell just like that when the music comes out and we're thinking about so many other things, it's like how often, you know, think of the next 365 days of your life, and realistically, are you thinking about this beef every single day for the next 365 days?
Which is why look, what you just brought up is why I don't. Which is why I think J. Cole's move isn't the worst move. I don't think it's the best move. I don't think it's the worst move either, and I think it's gonna be better for him in the long run because it's just like this. No, I'm not thinking about. I don't just like he doesn't dislike Kendrick. He doesn't hate anybody.
Yeah.
He doesn't hate anybody. He likes his relationship of being cool with everybody, or at least decently cool with everybody. And I understand that. Yeah, I think who's thinking about this shit all the time? Like, Drake, you want to be the petty king? You go ahead. You think about, you know, in every verse, in every song, that nigga, this nigga, that person, this person, all these people that have dissed me, and I'm gonna write a verse. I'm gonna write a bar for at least every single one of them. They're gonna be 3 layers deep, so you'll never really know who it is, but they'll know who it is, and it's just like, what sort of life is that? Like, you're barred up, you're rich, everyone is against you.
Notice how everyone's flocking to Kendrick.
Everyone is against you. Like,
I think Kendrick has the most allies in all this.
well, it may not even be that Kendrick has the most allies. It's just Drake has the most enemies. You see what I'm saying? What sort of life is that? That's horrible.
Is it his fault?
I think partially.
I think it's partially.
I don't think.
Is
Look, my perception of Drake has always, for quite some time, was like he was kind of minding his own business, and then all these people are hating on him because of the way his music sounded and the way his personality might be. But I don't think you incite this much fury if you haven't said something to incite this much fury. Like, there's got to be something that you've said. Like across the board, every single one of these people are just rap haters, you know? Like, I don't think so. Albeit, I'm sure some of them are. Overall, Drake has, this is what I mean, like that perception, which is why I think Kendrick can do whatever the hell he wants. Really. And Drake can't. In this case, he has to keep responding. He has to, I think, in a sense, he feels more pigeonholed than Kendrick is.
Right. Well,
in a sense, because Drake could drop one verse, not a song, but a project. He dropped
Drake
one
and
verse.
Kendrick are on 2 completely different sides of the spectrum because the music that Kendrick makes, he is going against the grain and is non-conforming and is telling a story, whereas Drake appeals to the audience and the zeitgeist in more of a pop fashion.
That may be the real battle that we're seeing here. What version of hip hop is actually better? Like, Drake is claiming.
That's so great.
You know what I'm saying? Like, what
I
version of
think
hip
that
hop?
is what
What's
we're
happening
getting
here
there.
is Kendrick is the epitome of hip hop as the dream of what rappers really hope hip hop could be. Barred up, introspective, honest, good lyrics, social, socially aware lyrics, some politics here and there. But music, artistry more than anything. I'm here to tell you something real, right? At least it leans more towards that, right? Versus Drake's, and Drake's really good at this. I will stand by the fact that Drake is good. He's very good, which is why he can do what he's done for most of his career. But he's very good. But the problem is, his subject matter of hip hop is pretty much everything that is rotting hip hop, in my opinion. The over emphasis on expanding your wealth more than anything else through lyrics about your baby mama, girls, through lyrics about your cars, through lyrics about your money, your power, your danger, your crime, your all of the most toxic, endless things that all the hip hop people
Have you
talk
noticed
about.
this? If you look at the trajectory of both of their content and subject matter, Drake is leaning more into his toxicity, and Kendrick is unwinding it.
Notice that?
Yeah.
Kendrick is trying to, in his music, albeit sometimes it did feel like it was corny, albeit I've listened to the project a few times with some Rowland, the Big Steppers. I think it's a great project. But I do feel like those moments where, like, his wife I don't know if that was actually his wife, like saying you're breaking generational traumas. I felt like it was a tiny bit corny, but I understand it, I respect it, and I love it. Right?
He did it.
Right. Tiny bit corny, but I love it. I respect it. I do it on my music too. I think there's a little bit of room for corn, just a little bit of room for corn, but a kernel or two, not too much.
What kind of corn?
right, Kanye.
Yeah, now how we
but like
That's awesome.
But like his music is trying to, or at least he is trying to, through his music, artistically express, heal, and he's created a solid 4 projects. All a 7 or an 8 and above. Easy. That he could rest on those. Drake has twice as many.
More.
Right?
More.
Right?
Drake is, and I mean, I'm going to maintain the truth to myself when I say that Drake is one of my least listened to artists in general.
Really?
All across the board, music-wise.
Fascinating.
I will play a couple of his tracks that I enjoy. For example, like Free Smoke, or that track he did with Portland, the one with Travis Scott. No.
Oh, you're still back in More Life.
Yeah, there you go. So that track,
High
Pop
school
Star.
Drake back in high school.
Yeah.
High
school Drake.
Yeah, so like,
High school for you.
High school for us.
yeah, high school for us. I'll listen to like a few of those here and there. They're littered in my playlist. But like, I have never respected his leech activity, where I know he outright takes interesting things that smaller individuals make and then just propels it into...
Or tries to hop into the sound.
Right.
Yeah.
And then does it terribly, in my opinion. And then there's things that he does fantastic. His flow is always on point.
Yeah.
A lot of his bars are like Instagram captions that makes them so catchy and memorable.
Yeah.
But like simultaneously, I also know that, there was like this thing recently that came out where Lil Yachty had like a... I don't know if you heard about this. He had like a reference track for something he was doing.
Jumbo shit poppin'.
Yeah, and then Drake literally like line by line, like cadence and everything, took all of Yachty's stuff.
Well, did Yachty give it to him?
Well, that's the thing. It's like all this stuff is behind the scenes.
Because they're
like,
friends.
But the idea that the reference track was more than just like a hook. It was like you essentially almost bar for bar.
He wrote that song.
Used what Yachty did on that song.
So the problem that I then now have,
and claimed it as
right,
and I'm sure he gave Lil Yachty writing credits
behind the scenes,
but no one really knows how much someone else's contribution is just by putting them in the credits.
So that's where my problem is with him. It's the mic loves your voice. Your flow is on point. Like you know how to get on the mic and do your thing. But to what extent is the ability people are chalking you up to have is actually yours?
Right. Your career is tattered with accusations of you not being the direct source of all your music.
Right.
And then on top of that, you're also making the claim that you are arguably the greatest rapper of all time.
Right.
Right. But one of the prerequisites that I think we still hold on to for the greatest rapper of all time is the creation of your own music. Like, not to say that Drake hasn't created his own music, let's say. But like, that accusation, I don't think you'll find that accusation with Dre-Z. I don't think you'll find that accusation with Nas, that, Ghost wrote this or your shit was Ghost written. At least definitely not as prevalent as I've heard with Drake. But then again, I also think this is what I mean by that trajectory. Drake wants to be a superstar. His thought process is Michael Jackson. And Michael Jackson is bigger than pop music. Drake, in my opinion, is bigger than hip-hop music. And he still wants, and I think Bynes mentioned this before in different conversations, but I think he still wants that respect for hip-hop.
Yeah.
From hip-hop, from the culture.
That's my problem.
And you can't have it both ways.
Like, with Drake, it's like, I feel like he has a degree of that, like, DJ Khaled syndrome, where Drake will do something to a track, right? And he has contributed to a lot of people's number ones, like we were talking about before. He'll contribute to a track, throw his verse on there. We don't know if that verse was written by someone else or the artist who that track belongs to. His presence just being on the track, and like DJ Khaled, him throwing we the best music, you know what I mean? Him just doing that and propelling it to the limelight, where you got a team of individuals who are extremely talented on the back end, who are crafting that song, putting it together. But just the fact that your presence is on that record is what's contributing to how well it's doing, which is why sometimes I don't necessarily agree with Drake being like, oh yeah, like, what are you saying because I am the reason you're number one? Well, like, sure, but like, how did your presence get to the standing that it currently is today?
Right. How many people helped you be number one?
Exactly. So
when you're making the accusation that without me, you guys wouldn't be number one.
Right.
How many people are behind your presence as the number one guy?
Right. So
and how much credit have you given to those people? This is why the whole braggadocio thing is a double-edged sword in hip hop. It definitely gets you, that run that J.Cole had in the past few years, but it also puts you in trouble where, I'm the best, I'm the best, I'm the best, I'm the best, and then people are like, who wrote that song? And like, you flinch a little. You know what I mean? And it's just, it's like, don't do that. Do what Kendrick did. Make introspective music, tell the truth, make vulnerable music, set up a career of telling stories, real impactful shit, right? Take your time. If it's possible, I know industry is speed. Everybody wants new music right now. Albeit, honestly, how often do you listen to new music?
How often do I listen to new music?
New music?
Like
new music.
It depends on who it's from.
Right. So you're only waiting for drops.
I don't really wait, like I'm not I have a whole majority of my playlist is music from like I was saying, like high school. You know what I'm talking about?
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying too. Because in my music playlist, I have a bunch of playlists, and I don't listen to the newer shit that comes out.
Right.
I'm mostly listening to things from like
fades out of existence a bit.
I'm mostly listening to things from yesterday, from 10 years ago, from 20 years ago even. like this constant need to new. It's you get thrown into the pile heap of a million billion songs.
The only
that come out all
songs
day.
or like music that I am really like when I hear that it's gonna come out, I get excited for is like Future when he has production like ATL Jacob, Southside, Metro Boomin, because those are individuals that I take a lot of inspiration from as I started learning like that trap sound or that more up tempo like party type sound with the music. So when I hear stuff like that, I'm like, oh man, I can't wait to hear what this sounds like.
Right.
But as far as just like,
The
like the chant stuff, like for example, honestly, I wasn't even thinking about it until you brought it up. Stuff like that.
We look. I think that's also, kind of the lie that we're all kind of feeding into. Like now and new, need it now, need it new, need it now, need it new. It's just like, well, really though. The music that we're all going to be listening to frequently is the music that it's not even new. It's just, it always works. So you want to make the music that always works.
Right.
And that takes time. And once again, I think this is a testament to how good Drake is in the fact that for the amount of music that he's made, he's kept it at a certain level. But I also think, like, you oversaturated yourself. Like, we get a new thing from you every year. And we definitely anticipate it. You're still Drake. You still have that presence. But I think it's set you up for this moment where I'm just like, hey, man, I know Kendrick Lamar. I'm going to wait.
Yeah.
I know Kendrick Lamar. I'm going to wait. I know his catalog. I'm thinking in my head, what do you have against him? And the fact that you came at him for his splits says a lot.
That's what he's thinking.
That's what I'm thinking. Like,
yeah.
Like
as far as, can you elaborate?
Is it like he in the
Drake's
song
line of attack
on Kendrick
dropping
was
his
his
50,
business.
like
It's
with
the
Top
splits.
Dog, yeah.
Right, like your thought process to come at Kendrick Lamar was the splits. And then your second thought process, right, when you did the Tupac song was to come at his legacy.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think he's coming at his legacy. I think the purpose of the Tupac song is to disrespect his lineage.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Well, yes. I mean, yes.
Like your style of making music and what you think you stand for isn't, as important as you make it out to seem. Like,
which is
from my perspective.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think I think that's true. I think what I'm also specifically referring to in terms of what that song was saying about Kendrick with the Tupac and the lineage. He's coming at him for, you're supposed to be the next great hip hop, from the West Coast savior.
Yeah.
You're supposed to be the next best thing, and you're not that, and you're not responding to Drake, so you're not that. But I think this is, like I said, like you said earlier, I think this is a misstep, and I think it's a misstep because all we have to do is play back the history, bro.
And we are.
All we have to do is play back the history. This is why I think it's so, and I think that's interesting because I've always thought Drake had safer steps, or at least safe steps throughout his music career. But I'm starting to, through this, be like, your steps are definitely safer than most, but it's not as safe as Kendrick's. And it's not even like Kendrick walked lightly. It's more so that Kendrick spoke carefully. Kendrick expressed carefully. It's not like your expression was all over the place, but Kendrick made sure to express himself more than he expressed himself based off of what hip hop wanted.
I think the route that Kendrick took, on the contrary, outside of what you were talking about, is just as far as like the music itself goes, wasn't safe compared to
Right, it was actually more risky. It was definitely more
Kendrick,
risky.
on that
It's
side was way more.
counterintuitive.
Yeah.
It's counterintuitive.
Because I think
yes,
in the
but I
long
think
run,
that's the thing.
if you hit consistently what Kendrick, that choice that Kendrick made of, you know what, I'm not gonna make everything be a radio hit success, and I'm not gonna, lean into pop, and I'm not gonna lean into every single trend that comes, right? Which is all, like, Drake leans into every trend. Mm-hmm. Drake is always online, always on top of what's next. He's, nakedly popular, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that seems like the safe choice. But
right,
I think it
that's
makes
what I'm
you
saying.
vulnerable.
That's what I'm saying. Right, that is exactly the point. If there wasn't a precedent that was set by Andre 3000 in his career through his music, would we be as vocal as we were when we heard that Andre 3000 was doing a project, right? His flute project. Would we have been as vocal as we were or have been in the past, however many years in hip hop about how cool it would be, how amazing it would be to get an Andre 3000 project in general? It's the fact that we would wait. It's the fact that we would show up. And Andre 3000, Kendrick Lamar, Jay Electronica, these obscure artists that don't go on that more conventional route. They go on the unconventional route. I think,
like Scaring the Hoes with
Right.
Danny Brown.
That's a great project, man. I was listening to that project.
JPEG.
I was listening to that project. You heard it? Oh my God, the beats.
Of course.
The soundscape.
He made JPEG made all that on a SP.
That was crazy.
All the beats were made on one of those old school
Really?
SP hardware.
That's why it was so dope. Yeah. But I think it's the fact that that's only gonna age better. That's gonna age like fine wine.
For sure.
That's gonna age like fine wine. I think that project's gonna age like fine wine. Kendrick Lamar knows that his music is going to age like fine wine. Yeah. Andre 3000 music has aged like fine wine. You don't know why? Because it's so rare now. Andre 3000's verses are rare. Andre 3000 himself is rare. Kendrick is rare. Drake is also rare, but you're giving people things that aren't rare at all. You're really good at it. You're a rare talent to be able to do that. But you're dealing with somebody that's not only a rare talent, but he has given the world rare music that if he stopped today, those projects, that period of time for Kendrick Lamar would be immortalized and he'd be considered one of the best of all time, arguably. Easy.
Yeah.
Easy.
So,
Easy. Like Drake, you're also it's two different routes towards being arguably the best of all time, and we're trying to find out. I think that's the undercurrent of this battle. What way was better? And in my opinion, Kendrick's.
Another way to think about
Kendrick's
it.
way was better.
Another way to think about it is someone said this about m.A.A.d. I think it was Ebro. I was listening to his pod on Apple Music, and he said m.A.A.d was celebrated when it came out. It was celebrated the 5-year anniversary. It was celebrated at the 10-year, the 20-year. Now we're about to do a 30-year. And there's brands jumping out of the woodwork to be part of the 30th anniversary of m.A.A.d. I'm like, what's a project that could similarly have that sort of longevity? Things like Good Kid, Mad City. I could see them.
Easy.
I could see them having a
Good Kid,
30th anniversary of those projects.
Those two definitely.
Yeah.
Those two definitely.
Honestly, it's hard to see that for the second half of Drake's career.
Yes.
Yeah. It's hard to say the same.
I mean, this is, in my own memory and in my own experience, the only project that I would
Except
say.
for maybe like
The
Scorpion.
only
some
project.
of those songs.
Hold on. The only project that I would say that Drake, if Drake tapped out now, not died, God
God
forbid.
forbid. Yeah.
Right. But like if he stopped, he was done. He was really done. we probably immortalize Take Care. We probably immortalize, if you're reading this, it's too late. We probably immortalize Nothing Was the Same. I think those are the only three that I would say that would be immortalized. For Drake.
Yeah.
I think Views somewhere underneath that, but I think the rest of them kind of fine. Maybe we'll look back at some of his like beginning projects and be like, oh, you know. But I think those specific ones, Nothing Was the Same, Take Care, and Good, if you're reading this is too late, would be the only projects, in my opinion, for Drake. Even still, I don't think those three projects, in comparison to Kendrick's two projects, and then the rest of his other projects,
touch it.
No,
it doesn't touch it.
I don't think it's the same.
And you know what's funny for me? I feel like the only, in my opinion, and maybe I'm just forgetting a project or something, but the only project that immortalizes J. Cole for me is the one where he's sitting on the, what is the name of that project?
2014 Forest Hill Drive.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
that is the only project that immortalizes him.
That's actually true.
For me.
Yeah.
I actually agree with that. I 100% agree with that. Because what was before that?
Fuck the big three.
Born Center.
But what was before that? What was before that? Born Center, right. Yeah. And then
Born Center didn't have.
Post that was.
It had some skippables.
Post that was. For Your Eyes Only, KOD,
the off season.
The off season. I completely forgot about the off.
Yeah, so did I.
That's crazy.
I thought it was a lyrical exercise.
Yeah, that's all it was.
Yeah.
I like that track that Timbaland produced on the off season. I forgot the name of that beat or track.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's another thing too. Like, I think Drake might also underestimate the piece, the art piece, the project, right? Not just your career and the moment that we're in and how, you know, you're the biggest star in the world, but you underestimate the art piece and that impact throughout time. I think that outlasts your moment. I really do. I think
even Ye has those.
Right. I think that outlasts your moment. It outlasts your, you know, your celebrity goings and comings and all the things that you do and all the tabloids and all the things and all these past decade of all the stuff that's happened to you. We look back on the works. We look back, like when I think of Kendrick Lamar, albeit he's mostly quiet, I look back on To Pimp a Butterfly. I look back on Good Kid, Mad City. I have a playlist dedicated to Kendrick Lamar in order: Section 80, Good Kid, Mad City, To Pimp a Butterfly, freaking Untitled Unmastered, and then I have Mr. Mal and the Big Steppers, and I just started Section 80, and I just listen all damn. Sorry, I just listen all the way through.
Yeah,
all the way through. And I enjoy myself about 90% of it. 95% of it. I'm enjoying myself the whole time. It's great. Deep, introspective lyrics. Sometimes it's hard. Sometimes it's interesting. Sometimes it's just music. But I remember it, and each one has an experience worth revisiting. I have a Drake playlist too, but my playlist for Drake is more geared towards where he's more barred up. I like more barred up Drake. I think he's a good rapper. I think he's a very good rapper. For me, it's just like, hey man, you're probably one of the richest guys in the world right now. Could you do me a favor? Could you try and make the absolute best project that you possibly could make? The deepest, most interesting, your bars at the utmost level, the most interesting music.
Would he be Drake if he stopped making this sort of music, though?
He might be freaking better. He might be Drake +1.
I mean, but that was another question that I think has come up recently in my part of the internet. Honestly,
or maybe he has.
Honestly,
and
just in my mind, honestly. Maybe other people aren't thinking about it, but you know, I think part of the reason you've seen like a lack of growth in the subject matter of Drake is because I don't think he can be Drake the entity without this.
Yeah, that's what I mean. But like that also goes back to, you know, all this is stemmed from the conversation of that battle between the two different trajectories. Like, I don't think people I don't think we're fully grasping that, like, freedom is the utmost goal that all human beings strive for in their own way, sometimes twisted, sometimes perfectly understandable and rational. You know, just we all seek freedom. We all seek to be free. And I think Drake has an idea of freedom in his head. But in this trajectory that he's taken through his career, it feels like, in my opinion, it feels like when it's come to the head-to-head with where both of them are, it strikes me that Kendrick Lamar is more free to do whatever the hell he wants to do than Drake. Drake has to maintain this. Kendrick can actually disappear for a few years. He can only just do shows for a little bit. He can take a break. He can relax with his family. I'm sure Drake can do the same thing to a certain extent, but like, you've set the precedent that we all hold you to. Kendrick has set a precedent that we've all held him to. And he's at this point, we're just kind of waiting for him because he's far exceeded it.
Do you think that there's going to be a time that we don't hear from Drake for multiple years, right? And
probably
he comes back, but will that have made an era of his music
immortalized? Not
immortalized, but like, because in a lot of his recent tracks, he's saying things like, "I'll never wait. I'll never take time off. I'm always gonna be on your necks." You know, whether it's 5 years or 10 years from now.
Well, he called himself the Petty King.
This, right?
He called himself the Petty King,
and I'm just curious to see how Drake ages. Like, are you always gonna want to be in everyone's face?
Right. Which is probably why the criticism of "you're too old for this" has started coming up.
Yeah.
I don't know. That depends on him. I don't know. I don't think it ages. I don't think this subject matter goes like if you're between, like, let's say, because rappers are starting off young these days, let's say you're between 16 and 25, if you're talking like this, I understand. Maybe after 25, a little bit more mature, you start giving us some, like, real projects, you know, some different subject matter, something a little bit more mature. I think that's expected. In your 30s, you know, features, and if you got a few classics in you, because you're, you know, yeah, absolutely. But I think the subject matter that Drake's going on, he's abiding by, at least from what I'm seeing, he's abiding by what hip-hop has, without saying, declared what it is, and he's abiding by that. And I think, like I said, I think that's why he's confused about the anger about the subject matter, because this is what we talk about anyway. But it's like, I think because really we don't want this. I don't think we want this. I think, yeah, at a club, sure, put it in the background, you know, like, we dance, we get litty, you know, it's a good song, it hits on all the right grooves, congratulations. But, like, really though, you're listening to old playlists. Go back and listen to. This
might just be us, though.
Right. There's also that.
Because there's people who.
There's also that.
Whose lifestyle is the club.
Right.
Whose lifestyle is the yacht.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
There's people who are listening to new music every day. Like, that's their thing. Like, the new song by this artist and that artist. And
I don't like doing all of that.
I can't keep up.
But it does feel like suspended adolescence. Right, I think eventually your soul almost yearns for more meaning.
Right.
And that's why we return to these pieces over and over again.
It kind of makes me upset to a degree and feel almost like a hypocrite, because I make music with people, but at the same time, I don't I feel so oversaturated by music. I don't feel like going to find new people to listen to.
Right.
But
right.
I yet
Right.
make music with people
Right.
to then
make new music with people who are new to this or new in general, you know, and you're making new, like, more modern music as
and that's
well.
the problem. So
Right.
like sometimes it's, you know.
Yeah, it's tough. Like, most of the time, I don't listen to hip hop. Like, most of the time, like today, I have a playlist. This is hilarious. I have a playlist called Indie Dreams. So it's songs that like sound like they would be in an indie movie. So I just listen to that, you know, because sometimes you just want to feel like, at least for me personally, like I'm in an indie movie, just like, you know, oddly introspective.
Yeah.
But other times I'm listening to, like, I do have a list with like relatively new music, but I don't really listen to that most of the time. I have gym playlists, but like all these new stuff, all these new things, I can't keep up. I don't think anybody can. I don't even think the artists that are making this new music can keep up. I don't know why we keep trying to convince ourselves that new every day is exactly what we need and what we should be giving people. But I don't think it's true. Make something good. Make something so good that people like continuously refer back to it forever.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think.
Anyway.
You guys good?
I think we did it.
We spoke for like 3 hours.